Chapter 1090. This was the law manifestation realm, a brand new realm. For these geniuses, it might only be a step away from the realm. However, this step away from the realm separated them into two different worlds. In the major sea regions, the transcendent realm could only be regarded as the younger generation's experts. Half-step law manifestation could only be regarded as the best among the younger generation's experts. Only those who had entered the law manifestation realm could be regarded as a big shot and have a place in the major sea regions. Half-step law manifestation could only be regarded as an insignificant figure. They looked at each other. At this time, they naturally knew that Yi Shiwen was right. He was the strongest among them. Compared to them, he wasn't on the same level at all. If there was someone who could stall Wang Shi and let them escape, that person must be Yi Shiwen. If any of them stayed, they might not be able to resist Wang Shi's attack. The final result would be total annihilation. There would be no change. Listen to me. After you guys leave, I can retreat unscathed, said Yi Shiwen. Wang Shi only looked at everyone with a smile. Even if everyone was trying to connect the dots in front of him, he didn't seem to care at all. In other words, it didn't matter at all. Looking at everyone's connection, it was like a cat teasing a mouse before eating it. In his opinion, everything was under control. Listen to Yi Shiwen, said Jian Wushuang while gritting his teeth. At this time, they couldn't help Yi Shiwen at all. Instead, they would become his burden. Everyone weighed the pros and cons. It seemed that this was the case. They couldn't help Yi Shiwen much even if they stayed. Since this was the case, they could only retreat. At this time, everyone looked at Wang Shi with hatred in their eyes. It seemed as if they wanted to imprint his face in their minds. If Yi Shiwen really met with any mishap, they would definitely find an opportunity to avenge him later. They were only one step away from the law manifestation realm. They didn't know when they could truly enter the law manifestation realm. At that time, it would be hard to say who would be the one to kill who. Wang Shi didn't care about everyone's hateful gaze. On the contrary, he liked the resentful gaze of his prey before they died. It gave him a strange pleasure. Once the decision was made, the crowd didn't hesitate and immediately scattered. However, Wang Shi didn't intend to chase after them. Boy, you're quite brave. Many people have died in my hands, and many of them were squads like yours. But none of them were like yours. How touching. What is this called? Friendship, right? Wang Shi smiled sinisterly, like a poisonous snake in the dark. At this time, Wang Shi seemed to be harmless, but Yi Shiwen did not dare to underestimate him. All the Jin Yuan in his body rose up in an instant and swept out from his body. The floor under his feet was shattered by his imposing aura. All right, I won't waste my breath on you. If we delay any longer, it will be difficult to catch up to them. Wang Shi smiled. With his strength, it was easy for him to catch up with them. If they were outside, even if they ran further, he would still catch up with them. However, in this complex palace, it was not easy to chase after them. If you want to go there, ask me first, Yi Shiwen said with a firm look in his eyes. He took a step and stood in front of Wang Shi. Ask you? You have to block one of my moves first. Wang Shi smiled disdainfully, boasting shamelessly, but that's it. I've let you live for so long and breathe for so long. Just take it as my reward for taking away your wealth. While speaking, Wang Shi suddenly moved. With a schwab sound, his figure suddenly appeared in front of Yi Shiwen, and his fist suddenly blasted down. The terrible fist energy had not yet arrived, but the strong wind that was blowing caused Yi Shiwen's clothes to flutter, and his hair to flutter crazily. Yi Shiwen's face showed a slightly surprised expression. The speed of a law manifestation realm master was faster than he imagined. This was the first time he had a head-on confrontation with a law manifestation realm master. Although he had been caught by a law manifestation realm master before, he was actually on the run. At that time, his strength was too far apart, and there was no way for him to find out the horror of a law manifestation realm master. This was the first time he fought with a law manifestation realm master. However, although he was a little surprised, his reaction was extremely fast. Almost in an instant, his 5 fingers clenched into a fist, and he immediately followed suit. He suddenly blasted out a punch, and it seemed that he was not much slower than Wang Shi. Boom! The two fists collided horribly in the air. Countless energy waves swept outwards layer by layer like the waves of the sea. Thump, thump, thump. Yishuan took a few steps back in succession before he could stabilize his figure. He only felt that a terrifying power was boiling in his body, and his chi and blood were surging wildly in his body. He almost couldn't suppress it and spat out a mouthful of blood. However, he knew that this breath must not be vented. Once it was vented, he would not be able to muster it up again. At that time, he would really die. This was the same as going to the battlefield. One's morale must not be vented. This mouthful of blood immediately dissipated most of his strength. How would he dare to spit it out? He forcefully swallowed it, bit the blood stains, and immediately used the Phoenix regeneration technique to quickly adjust his breathing. He looked at Wang Shi with eyes full of surprise and doubt. Is this the true power of a law manifestation realm master? He knew his physical body very well. Although he had not entered the half-step law manifestation realm, if a half-step law manifestation realm master dared to compete with him in terms of physical strength, he would destroy his physical body. It was impossible for a half-step law manifestation realm master to be his opponent. The tyrannical strength of the tyrant body was evident, but when fighting with a law manifestation realm master, he was actually at a complete disadvantage. This was because Wang Shi did not seem to be very good at physical combat. If he encountered a physique refinement master, just this punch would be able to seriously injure him. His combat power was already at the peak of the half-step transcendence realm. He was only one step away from the transcendence realm. However, it was this one step that caused the difference in strength between the two sides to be like heaven and earth. Unless he could step into the half-step transcendence realm or fight against an expert at the first heaven of the transcendence realm. However, this was not the true tyrannical strength of a law manifestation realm master. The real tyrannical strength of a law manifestation realm master was in his domain. Thinking of this, Yi Shiwen's expression became even more serious. Even if he used all his strength, he would not be a match for such an opponent. However, in order to stall him now, he had to fight. Wang Shi also looked at Yi Shiwen with a somewhat stunned expression. Unexpectedly, Yi Shiwen's punch didn't blow him up. In fact, he didn't even suffer any serious injuries. It seemed that Yi Shiwen had only suffered some minor injuries. This person's physical cultivation was extraordinary. However, it was only extraordinary. He was about to lose the fat meat that was already in his mouth. He began to feel anxious. It seems that I can't get rid of you without using some strength. What a stinky and rotten bug. Wang Shi began to become a little impatient. He clenched his 5 fingers into a fist, and countless blood aura around him was absorbed and gathered in his hand. Dragon Snake Transformation. Yi Shiwen blasted his fist, and a terrifying fist energy blasted towards Yi Shiwen. In an instant, the blood chi seemed to have been endowed with essence energy, and instantly became alive. It turned into a terrifying flood dragon, and opened its big mouth, and directly rushed towards Yi Shiwen to kill him. Yi Shiwen did not hesitate and directly unsheathed his sword. The dazzling sword light directly bombarded the dragon, ready to test the power of this attack. Boom! As soon as the sword radiance and the fist energy collided, a one-sided situation appeared in an instant. The fist energy instantly annihilated the sword radiance. The originally very sharp sword radiance was smashed under the bombardment of his fist energy. It was swallowed up by the blood-colored flood dragon, which boosted his strength even more. Not good! Yi Shiwen's complexion suddenly changed, and his figure flashed again and again. In front of him, the flood dragon had already pounced on him, and its pair of blood-red front claws were like 2 huge pincers, grasping towards Yi Shiwen. Shwa! At the moment when the dragon was about to pounce on Yi Shiwen, he had already turned into a group of golden light and disappeared in front of Wang Shi. At that critical moment, Yi Shiwen actually dodged it. Wang Shi was even more surprised. This brat not only had an outstanding physique, but his speed was also superior to others. This brat had actually dodged the move that he had thrown out in anger. This brat was really not simple. No wonder he would volunteer to stay behind and bring up the rear. If Wang Shi thought that Yi Shiwen could escape unscathed after bringing up the rear was a joke, and that Yi Shiwen was comforting his teammates, then the belief in his heart had slightly changed now. If he was not careful, he might really let this kid escape unscathed. Then he would lose face. If this matter were to spread out, the reputation that he had built up during this period would really become a joke. And at the moment when he was still in a daze, Yi Shiwen, who had originally disappeared, suddenly appeared in front of him. A ray of sword light actually went directly towards his neck, wanting to kill him completely. Damn it, I didn't go looking for trouble with you, but you actually dared to counterattack. Wang Shi suddenly felt that he was fiercely provoked. When facing a master of the law manifestation realm, he actually dared to counterattack. This could be said that Yi Shiwen's courage was not small. How audacious of you! Wang Shi shouted explosively, and then he stretched out a hand to grab the wisp of sword light. Bang! The sword light was forcefully broken by him. Almost at the same time, another fist formed, and the terrifying fist energy instantly shrouded Yi Shiwen, wanting to beat him to death. Chapter 1091. His punch was in the shape of a spiral, twisting and turning crazily. It went straight to Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen could not dodge it and was hit by it. Bang! Yi Shiwen was sent flying in the air. His entire chest was badly mutilated. It had been blasted out by the terrifying fist energy. If it had been an ordinary person, perhaps his entire body would have been pierced through. Fortunately, his tyrant body was tyrannical. Yi Shiwen only felt that countless terrifying forces were running around in his body, and the pain went straight to his brain. But at this time, there was no other way. He quickly mobilized the Phoenix regeneration technique to heal the injuries in his body. He could not help but smile bitterly. In the past, he relied on his invincible means, whether it was physical strength or speed, but in the face of Wang Shi, he could not use them at all. Wang Shi's body was not inferior to Yi Shiwen's in terms of strength or speed. Not to mention that his realm was far above Yi Shiwen's. He was able to suppress Yi Shiwen by relying on the advantage of realm. Yi Shiwen's pride couldn't offset the advantage of realm. Instead, he was being suppressed by Wang Shi. Wang Shi's strength was far superior to Yi Shiwen's. This was the fundamental reason why Yi Shiwen had been struggling from the very beginning. The fierce battle and Yi Shiwen's injury directly alarmed Yi Mo, who was sleeping in seclusion. What kind of trouble did you get yourself into? Why did a law manifestation realm expert personally come to kill you? Yi Mo asked. Yi Shiwen did not hide it and told him these things with divine thoughts. Even so, you can't be entangled by him. Otherwise, you'll be finished. Even though there's only a slight difference in strength between you and him, you absolutely have no chance of winning. This is a gap of a great realm. It's already amazing that you can escape unscathed. Yi Mo said, drag it for a while. When they all escape unscathed, you should also retreat quickly. When you break through to the half-step law manifestation realm, you can kill this kind of trash as you like. Yi Shiwen smiled bitterly. These things were not up to him to decide. It was not easy to get rid of Wang Shi. Moreover, he had to delay him here to accumulate time for the unparalleled sword sect and the others to leave. Fight with me. Go to hell. Wang Shi shouted and chased after Yi Shiwen again. He had severely injured Yi Shiwen just now. Now he wanted to give the final blow. In his opinion, this should be enough. This kid, who was only at the Transcendent Realm 9th level, could block him for so long. This in itself was unprecedented. As for letting him escape, was it possible? Shua! Yi Shiwen's figure disappeared in the air, and his fist directly hit empty air. Bam! His fist energy directly blasted a terrifying big hole in the floor. How is this possible? Aren't you seriously injured? Wang Shi said in disbelief. However, before he could continue to be surprised, Yi Shiwen unexpectedly pounced on him again. His fist turned into a huge star and blasted down, shattering Star Fist. A trace of killing intent flashed in Wang Shi's eyes. He had failed to kill Yi Shiwen several times, which had made him completely impatient. Dragon Snake Transformation. He punched out, and the terrifying fist force twisted and swept up. Boom! Two huge fists collided wildly. The fist force collided with each other, twisted, poured, and devoured each other. Thump, thump, thump. Yi Shiwen took a few steps back again before he managed to stabilize his figure. There was a surge of blood in his chest. Although he wanted to suppress it, this punch was too terrifying. He failed to suppress the injury on his chest. Blood spilled directly from the corner of his mouth, but it stopped immediately. Phoenix regeneration technique began to restore his body again. This strange technique had saved his life countless times. However, he found that although he was injured by the punch, the realm barrier on his body had loosened a little. In other words, he was actually showing signs of breaking through. It hadn't been long since his last breakthrough, and he was about to break through again. He immediately became excited. He originally thought that it would be impossible for him to break through in a short period of time. He didn't expect that just one punch would crack the barrier of his realm. Although it wasn't much, it was enough to make him excited. This felt like a blessing in disguise. Again, ha! Yi Shiwen laughed out loud. He once again transformed into a mass of golden light and disappeared. Then, he appeared behind Wang Shi in an instant. His foot suddenly shot out and tore the vast sky apart. It seemed as if everything would collapse as he directly kicked towards Wang Shi. You bastard! Wang Shi was completely enraged by Yi Shiwen. This guy, who should have been seriously injured by him several times, was like an undying cockroach, constantly sticking to him. It was annoying. Bang! Yi Shiwen was once again blown away by Wang Shi's punch. His figure directly flew out, and a mouthful of blood spurted out. And at this time, Wang Shi unexpectedly rushed over. He didn't want to give him any chance to breathe. He didn't believe that Yi Shiwen had an immortal body. So, there was only one possibility. Yi Shiwen had an extremely powerful healing power technique. When he thought of this, his eyes suddenly lit up. As a warrior, no one would not want to have an extraordinary healing technique. This was equivalent to providing him with an infinite life insurance. Just like the current Yi Shiwen, with his strength, he did not look up to him at all. But now, Yi Shiwen was like a sticky candy, constantly pestering him, making him feel annoyed. Immediately, he decided to defeat Yi Shiwen as soon as possible, then use the soul-searching technique to find out all of Yi Shiwen's secrets, and then brutally kill him. This was his most perfect plan. For Wang Shi, whatever he was afraid of would come true. He was most afraid of being entangled with Yi Shiwen, but Yi Shiwen was like a cockroach that couldn't be killed. He kept entangling with Wang Shi, and was blasted away again and again. But almost in a moment, he returned to his peak, and then rushed up again. Wang Shi was annoyed, but there was no way to get rid of Yi Shiwen to chase after the unparalleled sword sect and the others. But soon he changed his mind. Compared to the wealth, the healing technique that could restore him to the peak in a moment was more important. With this, he was like an undying cockroach. He even dared to challenge the second heaven of the law manifestation realm. Compared to the tangible wealth, this was more important. Kid, you are dead. I have decided not to chase after your companions. The secrets on you are more tempting than theirs. Wang Shi showed a ferocious smile and clenched his 5 fingers into a fist. In an instant, the entire air began to solidify, as if it had fallen into Wang Shi's control. Originally, Wang Shi only wanted to kill Yi Shiwen in a hurry and then chase after the others, so he did not really exert his full strength. But now, Wang Shi, who had calmed down, was truly terrifying. The moment he clenched his fists, Yi Shiwen's heart suddenly tightened. There was a terrifying sense of oppression. The moment he clenched his fists, Yi Shiwen's heart jumped crazily. It was as if his heart was squeezed in his hand, and it was going to explode. This was a direct manifestation of Wang Shi's terrifying cultivation. When facing someone with a lower realm than him, he could use this method. Even if the opponent's willpower was not strong enough, just a few steps in front of him would be enough to crush his heart. Just by using the rhythm of the heartbeat, he could easily make the opponent self-destruct without deliberately doing it. Then a terrifying domain shrouded him. Yi Shiwen didn't have enough time to evade it. He was enveloped by it and was trapped inside. After a while, countless beads of sweat appeared on Yi Shiwen's forehead. This was the first time he truly resisted the domain of a law manifestation realm master. This was the strongest method of a law manifestation realm master. One could imagine how terrifying this kind of domain was. If it was just an ordinary fake domain, he would not even care and directly smash it with a punch. But this was a real domain. Even he felt like he was being pulled to death by countless strange forces. It was like falling into a quagmire in a swamp. The more he struggled, the deeper he would sink, unable to break free. This was a real domain. In a domain, a law manifestation realm master was the real, true god. The only thing that could resist a domain was a domain. At this time, Yishuan deeply understood the meaning of this sentence. Indeed, only a domain could resist a domain. He had released his wind and thunder domain the moment he had been shrouded by the domain. However, that domain had been compressed to a radius of 3 inches around Yishuan in an instant. There was no way for him to rush out. In the face of a genuine domain, a fake domain was simply no match. But fortunately, he had the wind and thunder domain. Without this wind and thunder domain, he would not even need to fight back. He would not even have the strength to fight back and could only let the opponent crush him. This is a kid. If you want to blame someone, blame it on your wealth. Wang Shi grinned at Yishuan, who seemed to be trapped in a quagmire. He was very clear about the power of the law in his domain. Yishuan, who was trapped by him, was simply dead. Countless streams of blood qi began to condense on his fist to form 9 huge flood dragons that began to writhe wildly. 9 dragons returned. He let out a loud shout, and those 9 huge flood dragon heaters smashed through all of Yishuan's defenses at lightning speed. They tore open the Jin Yuan, protecting Yishuan's body, and ruthlessly smashed into his chest. Yishuan spat out a mouthful of blood. His chest had almost been smashed. It was a bloody mess. He couldn't bear to look at it. At this time, Yishuan's body flew out of his domain with the help of this terrifying force. Before Wang Shi could react, Yishuan instantly unfolded his wind and thunder wings. With a sudden flap, his figure directly flew out. Today's matter, I will repay you generously in the future. Wash your neck and wait. Chapter 1092. I will definitely repay you for what you did today. Wash your neck and wait. Yishuan's voice came from afar. The voice followed the figure and gradually faded away. Damn guy, don't go. Wang Shi roared again and again. He was fooled by a kid that he did not take seriously at all. Wang Shi even used his strength to escape from his pursuit. Damn it, damn guy, I want you to die. Wang Shi was still roaring like a wounded, fierce beast. Although he had just entered the law manifestation realm, he had already entered the law manifestation realm. But now, he was actually fooled like this. How could he endure it? The roar pierced through several halls and attracted the attention of countless martial artists. Many warriors recognized Wang Shi's voice. Ever since he became famous, everything about him had become the focus of everyone's attention. There was no other reason than to beg not to encounter this bastard. Otherwise, they would not even have a place to cry. After Yishuan unfolded the demon's wings, his speed suddenly increased a lot, but Wang Shi's speed was not slow either. The speed of the angry law manifestation realm master was simply unimaginable. Almost in an instant, he felt that he was about to catch up with Yishuan. He knew very well that his strength was not enough to compete with a real law manifestation realm master, so he did not hesitate at all. It could even be said that he was fleeing frantically. He absolutely could not be caught by him, or else he would be dead. Go to hell. When Wang Shi saw that he could not catch up with Yishuan, who had unfolded the demon's wings, he immediately snorted coldly. The dragon snake transformation blasted in the air, and the fist energy turned into a flood dragon that pounced towards Yishuan to bite. Booms! At the critical moment, the pair of demon's wings behind Yishuan flapped frantically, and he barely avoided this fatal move. Yishuan could hear Wang Shi's roar behind him. The terrifying spirit of the law manifestation realm firmly locked onto him. Unless he could speed up and get rid of him, it was impossible. Wang Shi was now infuriated by him. It was not that easy to escape the pursuit in a short time. He could only wait for Wang Shi to give up in the end. Yishuan sighed, but there was no other way. Who asked him to be weaker? Realms, realms. Yi Shiwen kept repeating these two words in his mind. Previously, he only felt that his strength was enough to deal with the half-step law phase realm experts. Indeed, his strength was enough to defeat all the half-step law phase realm experts. However, he had encountered Wang Shi, a transcendence realm expert. His strength, which could sweep away all the half-step transcendence realm experts, was nothing in front of Wang Shi. If he had the half-step transcendence realm initial stage, he would definitely be able to defeat Wang Shi. At the end of the day, his progress in the realm was still too slow. He secretly gritted his teeth. He would remember this debt. Just wait and see. If he did not repay such a great kindness, he would not be a man. Boom! 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 In the main hall, Yi Shiwen kept fleeing. Wang Shi behind him was also frantically attacking Yi Shiwen. Wang Shi kept blasting his fists, but Yi Shiwen narrowly broke through each time. Each time, a huge pit was blasted on the floor of the main hall. It was impossible for ordinary Transcendent Realm 9th level experts to escape. Even if it was a monster, it would be a dead end under such continuous attacks. It could be said that Wang Shi's attack was terrifying. Whether it was speed or strength, it was terrifying to the extreme. Unfortunately, he encountered Yi Shiwen. A long time ago, when Yi Shiwen was still at the Transcendent Realm 1st level, he had escaped the pursuit of the North Mountain Clan chief. Now that he was at the Transcendent Realm 9th level, his strength was incomparable to the past. So, no matter how he roared and how angry he was, it was useless if he could not catch up to Yi Shiwen. He could not do anything to Yi Shiwen at all. At this time, Yi Shiwen was also constantly mobilizing the power of the Phoenix regeneration technique to heal himself. After a while, the injury caused by the beating just now was almost healed. After the injury was healed, Yi Shiwen waved the demon wings behind him faster, slowly widening the gap with Wang Shi. Wang Shi was even more furious when he saw this scene. At this time, he noticed that Yi Shiwen not only had the holy healing technique that could heal quickly, but also a ridiculously fast movement technique. He couldn't even catch up with Yi Shiwen. He was a law manifestation expert, and Yi Shiwen was just a Transcendent Realm 9th level warrior. Once the news spread, it would be shocking. But no matter how angry he was, there was no way to catch up with Yi Shiwen. He could only watch Yi Shiwen go further and further. However, he already hated Yi Shiwen to the core. At this time, he had no intention of leaving, nor did he intend to let Yi Shiwen go. He hated Yi Shiwen to the core. He chased after Yi Shiwen. In the various palaces, all the warriors saw Wang Shi chasing Yi Shiwen in exasperation. These two people were considered famous figures among this group of warriors. Yi Shiwen easily beheaded Huang Weishan and the other two some time ago. It completely made him famous among this group of geniuses. It also let everyone know that there was such a character. In the eyes of many people, Yi Shiwen was comparable to those law manifestation experts. They were all characters that should not be provoked. These were characters that could easily crush them to death with a slap. They were extremely dangerous characters. Wang Shi was even more of a wicked bastard. If Yi Shiwen could not be provoked, as long as they did not provoke him, then they could live in peace. However, this Wang Shi was purely a robber, a bandit, and a bastard. He focused on robbing for 30 years. The key point was that this guy never left anyone alive. Compared to Yi Shiwen, this guy didn't even dare to touch him. However, the current situation was that Wang Shi was actually chasing after Yi Shiwen in exasperation. Forget about this. It seemed that Wang Shi was not able to catch up with Yi Shiwen. It seemed that he was getting further away from Yi Shiwen. What the hell is going on? What the hell is going on? Why are these two fighting together? Someone said in disbelief. What's so strange about this? According to Wang Shi's action style, I reckon that the robbery has already reached Yi Shiwen. This Yi Shiwen is also a lawless guy that no one can control. Isn't this the reason for the conflict? Someone analyzed logically. Although it was just a guess, it was actually quite close to the truth. But this Yi Shiwen is really capable. There are people who escaped from Wang Shi, but those people, without exception, had the opportunity to escape because others desperately held Wang Shi. However, this Yi Shiwen seems to be faster than Wang Shi. Wang Shi can't catch up with his speed at all. Without speed, what's the use of Wang Shi's great ability? Although there is only a slight difference between the half-step law realm and the law manifestation realm, the difference is like heaven and earth. Yi Shiwen can sweep across the half-step law manifestation realm, but in the face of Wang Shi, he is still being chased like a stray dog. TSK, it's really interesting. It's just nice to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. Both sides are not to be trifled with. Now it's a little bit of a dog-eat-dog fight. It couldn't be better. What's there to see? It's better to spend more time exploring the palace. How much have we paid? How many places have we passed through? And how much have we passed through? How can we stand here now? How can we waste it for Yi Shiwen and Wang Shi? Yes, let's ignore them. Yi Shiwen could feel that the breath of Wang Shi behind him was gradually getting farther away, but Wang Shi had no intention of giving up. He could not wait to skin Yi Shiwen alive. So although there was a gap between them, there was no way to stop. I can't go on like this, or else the benefits will all be taken by others. Yi Shiwen gritted his teeth and said, he could not wait like this. In Yi Shiwen's mind, thousands of strategies were turned over. In just a moment, Yi Shiwen came up with a good idea. She saw Yi Shiwen spread his devil wings, and like a lightning, he leaped around the entire palace. Don't even think of getting rid of me. Wang Shi gritted his teeth and madly chased. At this time, Yi Shiwen's figure turned around and directly rushed into a main hall. Want to run? No way. Wang Shi immediately chased after him. However, a terrifying aura of the Transcendence realm swept out in the hall. The moment he rushed in, a huge beast claw came crashing down on him. Mechanical beast. He almost immediately determined what kind of monster it was that attacked him, and it was a terrifying Transcendence realm mechanical beast. He twisted his body and avoided the huge beast claw. Boom! The beast claw directly scratched the ground and created 5 huge cracks. It was abnormally terrifying, and he fixed his eyes on it. It was indeed a mechanical beast the size of a small mountain. It was a tiger-shaped mechanical beast. At this time, it seemed to have been startled. In an instant, many of the mechanisms in its body were activated, and it was roaring towards the sky. The fierce breath overflowed. Even a real fierce tiger did not have such a terrifying momentum. Even Wang Shi had to admire the person who made these mechanical beasts. Sure enough, the level of these mechanical beasts had reached an extremely high level. But now, there was no time for him to think too much. The tiger-shaped mechanical beast stared at him with its red eyes and let out a terrifying roar. In the face of such a ferocious mechanical beast, even Wang Shi did not dare to take it lightly. He could only dejectedly withdraw from the scope of the main hall. In his sight, he found that Yi Shiwen was heading towards the depths of the main hall. He was so depressed that he wanted to roar. What the hell was going on? Why could he go in? Chapter 1093. Wang Shi was so depressed that he wanted to roar, but unfortunately, no one could answer his question. He really couldn't understand why this mechanical beast actually let Yi Shiwen go and didn't choose to swallow him. Although he wouldn't be able to obtain all kinds of secret techniques from Yi Shiwen's body, but it was still better than watching Yi Shiwen escape unfettered. Damn, I don't believe that you can stay in there forever, Wang Shi said coldly. Even if I have to wait until the blood boundary closes, I will wait until you come out, and then I will dismember your body into thousands of pieces. He would rather not look for a fortuitous encounter to make a breakthrough, and he would dismember Yi Shiwen's body into thousands of pieces. It could be seen how much he hated Yi Shiwen. This was the first time he had been tricked, and for him, it was simply a lingering shame. However, at this time, Yi Shiwen had already gradually moved further away, heading towards the interior of the main hall. The fundamental reason why this mechanical beast would let him go was because he had restrained all of his aura. Although the mechanical beast seemed to be very intelligent, and no one knew how many programs had been inputted into it, making it more ferocious and powerful than ordinary ominous beasts. But after all, an inanimate object was an inanimate object, not a living thing. It would only judge based on a person's aura, and if a person did not have any aura, then it would turn a blind eye to it and treat it as a dead thing. Yi Shiwen already knew this, But even so, he didn't think of using this method to sneak into the various palaces to steal the treasures. The reason was very simple, because he discovered that the mission of these mechanical beasts seemed to be to guard those heavenly treasures and so on. It might be fine if he just walked in front of them, but if he wanted to take something from under their noses, then he would still be alerted in an instant, and at that time, the mechanical beast wouldn't even recognize him, and would launch an all-out attack, destroying everything that could move. So if he wanted to seize the treasures inside, he still needed to deal with these mechanical beasts outside. Although he couldn't seize the treasures inside this main hall, but he could still use the coercion of this mechanical beast to scare Wang Shi. Although Wang Shi was like a poisonous snake, but after all, he was not Yi Shiwen, and did not have the improved version of restraining breath technique that could restrain all of his aura. In other words, he simply could not come in, and if he wanted to come in, he would have to force his way in. And Yi Shiwen also knew that the strength of this mechanical beast was probably above that of Wang Shi, and if Wang Shi wanted to force his way in, then it would really be a dead end. And now, he wanted to enter the inner hall, a place where he could not be sensed by this mechanical beast, because he had chosen to make a breakthrough. This time, being chased by Wang Shi like a stray dog had given him a huge stimulation. In this microcosm, he still couldn't do as he pleased, and there were still many people who could pose a fatal threat to him. For example, if there were 2 more masters like Wang Shi, then they could besiege and kill him. This was something he was very afraid of, although the possibility was very small, but there was always this possibility. The only way was to enhance his own strength, and as long as his strength was sufficient, then this Wang Shi would not be a threat, let alone chasing him like a stray dog. Until he reached the depths of the inner hall, Yi Shiwen then sat down cross-legged, not daring to touch those heavenly treasures next to him. Otherwise, it would immediately alarm the tiger-shaped mechanical beast outside. He directly sat down and put the Tianyuan mirror on top of his head. Although the Tianyuan mirror was currently in the process of upgrading and most of its functions were dormant, it was not a problem to isolate Yi Shiwen's aura. He did not immediately start the breakthrough, but first began to treat some of the injuries that were forcibly suppressed. Previously, he was directly bombarded, and the injuries on his body had not healed at all. In that case, even the Phoenix regeneration technique could not heal all of them in one go. He wanted to start breaking through to the half-step law manifestation realm in his best state. But these were all trivial matters. The Phoenix regeneration technique was indeed tyrannical. In just a quarter of an hour, the hidden injuries and hidden dangers in his body had been completely healed. Then, Yi Shiwen began to prepare for the breakthrough. It was very difficult to break through from the Transcendent Realm 9th level to the half-step Law Manifestation Realm. Although it was only the half-step Law Manifestation Realm, after all, it had touched the Law Manifestation Realm. It was considered to be incomparable with the previous Transcendent Realm. For ordinary people, it was already very difficult, but compared to Yi Shiwen's difficulty, it was simply nothing. Yi Shiwen's fighting prowess was far beyond that of the warriors of the same realm, so the difficulty of promotion was also far beyond that of ordinary people. Of course, once the breakthrough was completed, his combat power would also soar to a realm unimaginable for ordinary people. Since he was ready, Yi Shiwen no longer hesitated. He directly enveloped himself with the Mingxin ancient tree's 5-color divine light and entered the ethereal state. After being enveloped by the Mingxin ancient tree's 5-color divine light, he almost immediately entered an abnormally calm state. There was no sadness or joy, as if he was the reincarnation of a god. Countless bloodstones were burned in an instant, then turned into blood energy. Under Yi Shiwen's control, it poured into Yi Shiwen's body and began to help Yi Shiwen break through the barrier of the half-step law manifestation realm. At the same time, tens of thousands of spirit crystals were being burned every second. Then, they were transformed into spirit energies and poured into the mysterious space. In contrast, countless martial arts insights began to be deduced and then branded in the depths of Yi Shiwen's soul. This was a two-pronged approach to help him break through to the early stage of the half-step law manifestation realm in one fell swoop. At the same time, Yi Shiwen also activated the observing person scripture. For him, This kind of simple multitasking was not a problem at all. The universe in his body began to operate crazily. A large amount of real vitality was absorbed and exhaled. Countless planets were born and destroyed in it. If Yi Shiwen wanted to break through to the half-step law manifestation realm, this Dantian had to break through first. Under his control, the real vitality continuously began to wash through the barrier of the half-step law manifestation realm. The first attempt failed just as Yi Shiwen had expected. However, Yi Shiwen remained unmoved. The first failure was already within his expectations. Every breakthrough required thousands of attempts. It wasn't something that an average person could imagine to be as boring as this. Only those who could endure loneliness would be able to enjoy the supreme glory. Time passed by in the blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Yi Shiwen's breakthrough gradually began to enter the most critical stage. If someone was here at this time, they would see Yi Shiwen's expressionless face. From time to time, he would take out a large number of elixirs from the Tianyuan mirror and stuff them into his mouth. For others, they would not be able to withstand so many elixirs in one go. They might explode and die. However, for Yi Shiwen, it was nothing. This was the strength of the tyrant body. No matter what kind of energy entered his body, it would be quickly absorbed and contained by the tyrant body. In addition, his current foundation was unprecedentedly strong. He was not afraid that these elixirs would contaminate his foundation. On the contrary, he felt that these elixirs could help him break through quickly. Bit by bit, Yi Shiwen's breakthrough had entered the most critical stage. Whether he could break through to the half-step law manifestation realm depended on this. Although there seemed to be no change in his appearance, but in fact his whole body was stretched taut. He had to put all of his heart and mind into practicing, and fortunately, there was a mechanical beast standing guard outside. Otherwise, in such a chaotic place, he would not dare to concentrate on making a breakthrough. One must know that this was the easiest time for outsiders to take advantage of him. It was also the time when he was most prone to inner demons. As the saying goes, when a person broke through, there would be heavenly tribulation and human tribulation. In addition to the lightning, there would also be extraterrestrial demons. Inner demons were considered a part of heavenly tribulation. As for human tribulation, those who did not get along with you would inexplicably come to you when you were about to break through. In particular, the more serious your sins were, the higher the hurdle you had to pass, the more likely it was for you to encounter this kind of thing. This kind of thing had its own destiny. It could not be stopped even if he wanted to. With the Mingxin ancient tree, he did not have to worry about inner demons, which was the situation of qi deviation. He only needed to focus on preventing outsiders from interfering with him. Now in this palace, was there anything more reliable than this tiger-shaped mechanical beast? Boom! Suddenly, a terrifying explosion came from outside the palace. Immediately after, that tiger-shaped mechanical beast was suddenly awakened. It was startled, and that huge roar could be clearly heard by Yi Shiwen even in the inner palace. Yi Shiwen was suddenly startled. At this time, who would dare to stroke the whiskers of this mechanical beast? However, the voice that came immediately made him understand who it was. Wang Shi, according to our previous agreement, I will help you temporarily block this mechanical beast. When the time comes, you will get the agility technique and healing technique, as well as the wealth on his body. You will have to give me a share. I have to warn you, if his agility technique and healing technique are not as good as you said, then don't blame me for turning against you. You also know my temper. A deep and resounding male voice came from outside. Suddenly, Yi Shiwen understood. No wonder there was no movement from Wang Shi during this period of time. He thought that Wang Shi had already given up. Now it seemed that his original idea was too stupid. How could he give up? He simply wanted to ask for help. To be able to block this mechanical beast, it meant that he was at least a law manifestation realm master. Damn, if it was only Wang Shi alone, then it would be fine. But if there was another one, then it would really be a fatal threat. However, it was precisely at this time that Yi Shiwen knew that the more he could not panic, the more he had to remain calm. Time passed minute by minute. The battle outside was getting more and more intense. Wang Shi's breath was getting closer and closer. Yi Shiwen was also getting closer and closer to a breakthrough. Boom! Suddenly, All the Zhen Yuan in Yi Shiwen's body suddenly surged crazily. His imposing aura increased crazily. A brand new realm appeared in his eyes. He finally broke through. Chapter 1094. Half-Step Law Manifestation Realm. This was a transitional realm to the Law Manifestation Realm. Although this realm was not too high among the younger generation, it was worth celebrating for Yi Shiwen because he had caught up with the mainstream group for the first time. Although his combat power had caught up long ago, it was still combat power. After all, it was not the realm. With the improvement of the realm, Yi Shiwen's strength also increased exponentially. Little bastard, I finally caught you. This time, don't even think about escaping. A cold voice came from outside the hall. The owner of this voice was none other than Wang Shi, who was desperately looking for an opportunity to kill Yi Shiwen. In order to kill Yi Shiwen, he even revealed the fact that Yi Shiwen had a strange technique. Although he still had to share it with others, it was better than waiting foolishly. If Yi Shiwen did not come out for a lifetime, would they also wait like this forever? Although it was not the best way to find someone to help him, but there was no other way, and he was also reluctant to take out real money. So he simply used Yi Shiwen's strange technique to whet the appetite of that person and asked him to help him. In fact, he was even calculating in his heart whether he should make this friend disappear from this world at a critical moment. He was the only one who knew this strange technique. No one else had the right to know it, nor did they deserve to know it. His eyes were full of greed as he looked at Yi Shiwen. At this time, the hatred for Yi Shiwen was gone. Only greed was left. He coveted Yi Shiwen's strange technique and the wealth he had. In his opinion, even if he let go of the unparalleled sword and the others, as long as he got Yi Shiwen's strange technique, everything would be worth it. If you kept running, then you would definitely be able to escape. Unfortunately, you actually came here. You must not have thought that you could also walk in like this. At this time, Wang Shi regained his calmness as if nothing had happened. I really didn't expect that you would ask other people to come and help me. Although I can always hide from you, I don't have the time to waste with you. Perhaps your time is garbage time, and you can waste it casually, but every minute and every second of my time is very precious. Yi Shiwen crawled up and grinned. This smile actually made Wang Shi shudder slightly, as if he was being stared at by a ferocious beast. In order to not waste time, I decided to kill you, Yi Shiwen said indifferently. How arrogant. I think you've lost your mind. How laughable. You actually want to kill me? Why don't you take a look at yourself first? Wang Shi burst into laughter and said disdainfully. A few days ago, he was chased by Wang Shi, but now he dared to say that he would kill Wang Shi. Wasn't he crazy? Have you lost your mind? Let's see who dies in the end. Yi Shiwen sneered. He wasn't surprised. If he were in Yi Shiwen's shoes, he would have thought that the opposite party had lost his mind, or that his brain had been clamped by a door. However, how could he know that his strength had improved by leaps and bounds in the past few days? Brat, you're courting death, Wang Shi roared. His body flickered frequently, and in an instant he arrived in front of Yi Shiwen. His fists whistled, and his speed reached the extreme. The strength of the Law Phase realm was vividly displayed at this moment. 9 transformations of the snake dragon. The fist energy in his hand instantly condensed and turned into a flood dragon, blasting towards Yi Shiwen in the air. This was the rhythm of wanting to kill Yi Shiwen. If it was in the past, this punch could completely blast Yi Shiwen to death, but now it was completely different. Yi Shiwen directly ignored the incoming fist shadow and directly sneered. He unsheathed his long sword, and the wind and clouds moved. This sword was extremely fast, and in an instant, all of Wang Shi's attacks were broken. How is this possible? Wang Shi looked at Yi Shiwen in disbelief. Until now, he still couldn't believe that Yi Shiwen was actually so powerful that he could completely nullify all of his attacks. During this period of time, his strength had improved so much. Originally, he thought that in such a short period of time, there would be no changes at all. So what if Yi Shiwen's strength had improved greatly? However, he didn't expect that Yi Shiwen seemed to have really changed a lot, and actually broke his attack in one breath. How could his strength become so strong? It seems that you have made a lot of progress in the past few days. But if you think that you will be my opponent now, then you are gravely mistaken. Wang Shi sneered again and again. In an instant, the terrifying qi on his body swept out in circles and instantly turned into a domain. It directly shrouded Yi Shiwen, making him feel like he was in a deep quagmire. Go to hell. It's your honor to die in my domain. Yi Shiwen laughed loudly and said, This is just a child's play. It's just a disgrace. In front of me, it is simply showing off in front of an expert. Insignificant skill. Yi Shiwen didn't care at all. That domain had not approached Yi Shiwen, and more than half of it was swallowed up by his wind and thunder sea. There was no way to get close to Yi Shiwen, let alone cause any harm to his body. During this period of time, Yi Shiwen's cultivation not only improved his tyrannical strength, but also took the opportunity to transform his various martial arts moves. For example, this domain had suddenly become many times more tyrannical. His wind and thunder sea had also taken the opportunity to use countless bloodstones to upgrade to a terrifying level. Although it had not mutated into a real domain and could not really completely suppress those domains, it was completely no problem to contend with them. It would not be like before, where his domain was swallowed up. Then, Yi Shiwen moved and blasted out a punch. The sound of the punch was like a dragon, and it turned into countless stars smashing down and smashing that domain. Bang! Yi Shiwen's fist momentum did not decrease and blasted out again. Yi Shiwen's current strength was more than a little stronger compared to the past. Now that he had a breakthrough, how could he not vent to his heart's content for the past few days of depression? Wang Shi did not expect that Yi Shiwen could break his domain in an instant. He was a little unable to dodge, and his shoulder was blasted by Yi Shiwen's punch. His body suddenly flew upside down, and he screamed. If he hadn't dodged quickly, then he would have been punched in the chest by Yi Shiwen. Now, it was only his shoulder that had been hit, but if it had been his chest, then he might have been killed by now. How is this possible? How did you become so much stronger? Even if you have broken through to the semi-lawless realm, it is impossible to have such a cultivation. Wang Shi said in horror. At this time, he finally understood what was fear. He understood what those people who were targeted by him were thinking when they were facing despair. But he absolutely did not want to experience this kind of feeling. In the past, he even took pleasure in it. What he liked the most was to see his opponent's limbs broken by him, and then the feeling of being at his mercy. But now, if the target was changed to himself, then there would be no more pain. There is no way to understand with that pig brain of yours. Yi Shiwen sneered. He could finally vent the depression of being chased like a stray dog during this period of time. You won't understand how strong I will be after the breakthrough. Yi Shiwen continued to attack him. Damn, little bastard. Watch me beat you up. Wang Shi finally could not bear it anymore, and took the initiative to attack. His fist turned into a huge flood dragon, opened its bloody mouth, and stirred the clouds in the sky. Dragons themselves had the ability to swallow clouds and spit out fog. Although it was only a flood dragon, although it was only an evolved flood dragon, but the clouds in the sky still unintentionally rolled wildly. Just as so. Yi Shiwen smiled disdainfully. A flame rose in his hand and turned into a long flame blade. In an instant, it fell down. Unexpectedly, it fell on Wang Shi's body first. Originally, when Wang Shi faced Yi Shiwen, he could always attack first. His quality was stronger than Yi Shiwen. But now, with Yi Shiwen's breakthrough, Yi Shiwen regained the upper hand in this aspect. Boom! Fire Blade Dragon Slayer. Such a terrible scene appeared in the air. Yi Shiwen's long flame blade, under his support, actually began to slay the dragon. The huge flood dragon was beheaded by him on the spot. A strange flame directly burned the body of the flood dragon, directly revealing its original form. Wang Shi held the arm that was about to be burned into charcoal in an instant. He was suddenly horrified. He did not know what kind of flame it was. How could it be so terrible? It was like maggots in the tarsal bone, instantly burning up, and in the shortest time his entire arm was burned into charcoal. He rolled on the ground in pain. He had never been forced to such an extent. He had always treated others like this, and no one had ever treated him like this. If it continued to burn like this, it would only take a few breaths for the whole body to be burned. At that time, his whole body would die. Immediately, he made up his mind. His left hand chopped down, and the hand that was burned into charcoal instantly slipped down. After cutting off his right hand, although Wang Shi's face was pale and sweating, but it was already much better than before. Without the threat of the flame that was like maggots in the tarsal bone, his situation immediately became much better, and the broken arm was no longer a problem. He took a deep look at Yi Shiwen, and almost immediately turned around and fled without the slightest hesitation. He was very clear that he was probably not Yi Shiwen's opponent. At this time, it was only a dead end for him to confront Yi Shiwen. If he did not leave now, when would he? Chapter 1095. The escaping speed of a law manifestation realm master was extremely fast. In fact, it was impossible to reach such a speed in this palace. Otherwise, he would have smashed through the walls of this palace. In an instant, he was out of the inner palace. When he reached the outer palace, he saw a skinny young man struggling under the attack of a mechanical beast. He could only barely stall this mechanical beast. Wang Shi, what happened to you? Asked the young man when he saw Wang Shi running away in a panic. He could tell that Wang Shi was not faking it. One of his arms was broken. This was definitely not fake. Even at their level of cultivation, losing a limb was still a very troublesome thing. Although there were ways to regrow a broken limb, the price was not cheap. Moreover, even if the broken limb was regrown, it was like a newborn baby. How could it be compared to his own body that had been tempered for hundreds or thousands of years? He did not know how long it would take to regrow it. Because he is going to die. A cold voice rang out from the inner hall. A cyan figure leapt out from it like a cyan bolt of lightning in an instant. You? The skinny young man stared at this scene. He could not believe it. The relationship between the hunter and the prey had suddenly reversed. Even his eyes began to show a bit of vigilance. He even suspected that Wang Shi and this young man had colluded to plot against him. Wang Shi's reputation had long been rotten. No one was willing to believe him. The reason why he was willing to help was nothing more than relying on his tyrannical strength. If he went all out, he was absolutely not weaker than Wang Shi. He even faintly suppressed Wang Shi. Therefore, he believed that Wang Shi would not dare to play any tricks on him. But in essence, he did not trust Wang Shi at all. Once he got the secret technique, he would separate from Wang Shi. It was a very tiring thing to be with such a poisonous snake day and night. He needed to be on guard at all times. Who knew that the current situation would be like this? However, he was currently facing off against the mechanical beast. Originally, he could only barely hold back the mechanical beast. Now that he was distracted, he was hit a few times and was almost sent flying. Yi Shiwen saw the doubt and suspicion in his eyes. He sighed in his heart. Wang Shi's reputation was really bad. Even his companions didn't trust him. Then he grinned, revealing a row of white teeth, and said, "You think I colluded with him to plot against you? You're too naive. I don't need to collude with anyone to get rid of you." At this time, Wang Shi also carefully avoided the tiger-shaped mechanical beast that was the size of a small mountain and was about to jump out of the hall. "You want to leave? Where do you think you're going?" Yi Shiwen stepped in, just like a celestial being. His figure instantly drifted to the door, much faster than Wang Shi. The flaming long blade in his hand was burning fiercely, and he chopped it down. Shwa! The long saber was fast and accurate. It directly fell on Wang Shi, who was about to escape out of the hall. Wang Shi was overjoyed. As long as he could escape from this damned palace, he would be able to fly freely in the sky. In this palace, he could not freely display his speed, but before he could rejoice, Yi Shiwen's flaming long blade had already chopped down. He didn't have time to counterattack and could only raise all his defenses. But under Yi Shiwen's saber aura, these defenses seemed to be useless. They were instantly chopped down and ruthlessly chopped down on his body. Bang! A loud sound rang out. The saber aura chopped down on his body, almost splitting his whole body into two halves. If it wasn't for the internal armor and defensive instruments on his body, he would have already been chopped into two halves. The loud sound and movement immediately attracted the secret attention of many people. One must know that this palace was originally a forbidden place in the eyes of many people because of the mechanical beast. Everyone could recognize that this was a mechanical beast of the law manifestation realm. Not only them, even a law manifestation realm expert was chased out after entering. So this place became a forbidden place for the law manifestation realm experts. No matter how much they coveted the things inside, they dared not provoke this fierce beast. Later on, there was Wang Shi, a fierce person who seemed to be waiting for something outside, and it was even listed as a forbidden place by ordinary people. Wang Shi's reputation had already spread far and wide. Ordinary people didn't even want to meet this fierce person. Even law manifestation realm experts had been attacked from behind by him. One could imagine how this person's character was, and he was also lawless. He didn't even care about law manifestation realm experts. At this time, they were a little surprised to see him being slashed to the ground by a saber. While she had been famous for a long time, many people gnashed their teeth at him, but they couldn't do anything because he had always bullied the weak. Even if he provoked a law manifestation realm expert, he would directly kill the law manifestation realm expert when he was in a desperate situation. So although many people gnashed their teeth at him, they couldn't do anything about him. They let him be free and unfettered until now, but now they actually saw him in such a sorry state and almost killed by someone. Who is this person? Isn't it too terrifying? Once she was actually beaten like a dog? Isn't that person Yi Shiwen? It's him. That's right. A few days ago, I saw him being chased by Wang Shi like a stray dog. How come it's the opposite all of a sudden? Hiss, they came out from that palace. So, Wang Shi has been waiting outside for a few days because of this Yi Shiwen. In that case, could it be that Yi Shiwen had some fortuitous encounter in there? Otherwise, how could he be so terrifying? Everyone suddenly became noisy. Although Yi Shiwen was also famous, he was obviously not as notorious as Wang Shi, so he didn't need to hide from anything. Just based on this little thing, they could make a lot of assumptions. But obviously, except for the fact that Yi Shiwen had some fortuitous encounter in this palace, everything else was basically right. In fact, it was not that Yi Shiwen didn't want to touch the things in this palace. But if he really touched it, he was afraid that he would really be chased by this mechanical beast to the ends of the earth. Even Yi Shiwen didn't have full confidence in defeating this mechanical beast, so there was no need to waste his time here. At this time, the young man who was still fighting against the mechanical beast suddenly understood what Yi Shiwen meant when he said that he could deal with them alone, and there was no need to collude at all. It was too brutal. He knew Wang Shi's strength very well. Wang Shi might not be as strong as him, but it was definitely not too far off. However, Wang Shi was just like a puppet in Yi Shiwen's hands. He was beaten up very miserably. This was a great stimulation for him. His heart began to beat fast, and he wanted to escape, but there was no way to get rid of this mechanical beast's entanglement. Suddenly, he became somewhat depressed. How come there were 3 people in this palace, but it only targeted him, and that Yi Shiwen seemed to be a much more threatening threat than him? However, this mechanical beast just turned a blind eye to him and continued to stare at him without letting him go. Yi Shiwen didn't hesitate, and once again raised his arm, and the fiery long blade in his hand became even more intense. You can't kill me. I'm working for Xiang Hao. Seeing that Yi Shiwen was about to attack again, Wang Shi couldn't help but shout, Xiang Hao, he's actually working for Xiang Hao. Hearing this explosive news, those who were secretly watching suddenly exclaimed. Among the warriors who came to this small world this time, most of them were half-step law manifestation realm experts. There were also a few transcendent realm 9th level geniuses who could contend with half-step law manifestation realm initial experts. In addition, some law manifestation realm experts also came. Most of them were individual cultivators. Only a few among these people were also considered to be superior. Xianyang Sea region's Gongsun Juanhao was one of them, and Blue Moon Sea region Xiang Hao was also one of them. Among this group of people, they were the best. Although they were all law manifestation realm experts, these people were above everyone else. In many large sea regions, it was hard to find an opponent. Unless there was a behemoth like the 4 major sea regions, there might be an existence that could suppress them. One could imagine how shocked everyone was when they heard this. Wang Shi had always been cruel and merciless. He was notorious. Many people had suffered in his hands and fallen into his hands. If he was working for Xiang Hao, then wouldn't these things be ordered by Xiang Hao? If this news were to spread out, it would cause a huge uproar. Even the Jade Moon Sea area would not be able to face the anger of so many people. In the past, Wang Shi seemed to have no sect and was all alone in the world. He would not provoke those who could beat him, but those who he provoked could not beat him, which was why he was so arrogant and despotic. It wasn't easy to find Wang Shi, but now the situation was completely different. If it was Xiang Hao who did it, it would be a huge mess. Everyone held their breath and focused on the two people in the field. Xiang Hao? How did this matter involve Xiang Hao? Yi Xuan frowned. If this matter involved Xiang Hao, then things would be troublesome. How do I know you are not talking nonsense? Yi Xuan pondered for a while and said, Wang Shi was not trustworthy. He might be trying to incriminate someone on the verge of death. Chapter 1096. Yi Xuan had never fought against Xiang Hao before, so he didn't know his strength. Yi Xuan didn't want to get into trouble. Seeing that Yi Xuan was showing signs of easing up, Wang Shi immediately heaved a sigh of relief. At this time, he had already forgotten about the solemn vow he had made in front of Xiang Hao. What loyalty? What secrecy? At this critical moment, none of these were more important than his own life. At this time, all the fear of Xiang Hao was thrown to the back of his mind. The current Yi Xuan was 100 times more terrifying than Xiang Hao. Because Xiang Hao is trying to break through to the second heaven of the Transcendence realm and needs a large number of bloodstones and heavenly treasures. That's why he ordered me to plunder. At this time, in order to survive, Wang Shi confessed everything. At this time, everyone exclaimed. Firstly, it was Xiang Hao who ordered someone to do it. Secondly, it was because Xiang Hao was about to reach the Transcendent Realm's second level. For everyone, this was undoubtedly a very shocking piece of news. Among the experts of the younger generation, although there were high and low reputations, and everyone had their own favorites, up until now, they basically said that they were only at the first heaven of the Transcendence Realm, while Xiang Hao was actually about to enter the second heaven. One could imagine how outstanding Xiang Hao's talent was. Do you have any evidence? Asked Yi Xuan. I have evidence. Wang Shi quickly took out a jade pendant and said, This jade pendant was given to me to protect myself. As long as I crush it, I can summon a strand of his primordial spirit to block a calamity for me. His mind was filled with countless schemes and plots. To him, being forced to such a state was simply a great humiliation. More importantly, he had already confessed everything he had thought of. In the future, he would definitely face the endless pursuit of the Jade Crescent Sea region. Wang Shi was afraid that Yi Xuan wouldn't believe him, so he quickly crushed the jade pendant. In the jade pendant, a brilliance swept out, and a straight figure appeared in front of everyone. The brilliance dissipated, revealing a handsome man in a purple robe. Xiang Hao. That's really Xiang Hao. At this moment, there were people among the crowd who had seen Xiang Hao before. When they saw this figure, they immediately recognized him. This handsome man was indeed Xiang Hao. As a well-known figure among the younger generation of experts in the Blue Moon Sea area, Xiang Hao appeared with a terrifying aura like a tide. His eyes were silver gray, like a bright moon. They came from the bloodline of the sea race, and they looked completely different from ordinary humans. Wang Shi, why did you summon me? Xiang Hao glanced at Wang Shi, then glanced at Yi Xuan. Can't you even deal with this half-step law manifestation realm brat? Useless. He didn't take Yi Xuan seriously at all. Wang Shi looked awkwardly at Xiang Hao's shadow in the void, because it was a fact that he was not Yi Xuan's opponent. However, could this person in front of him be an ordinary master of the half-step law phase realm? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but bitterly glare at Xiang Hao's virtual shadow. Of course, he wouldn't let Xiang Hao see it, but all of this fell into Yi Xuan's eyes. You are Xiang Hao. Yi Xuan looked at the shadow in front of him with a smile. In that case, this guy didn't lie. You really are the mastermind behind him. You actually dared to betray me? Xiang Hao suddenly became angry. You probably lost to this brat. You're greedy for life and afraid of death. So you sold me out. Xiang Hao was very smart. Although it was just a primordial spirit, a shadow, he could almost immediately judge the current situation. Once she had called him out in order to survive. Forget it, it seems that I have to work a little harder. Anyone who sees this must die, Xiang Hao said coldly. His gaze not only swept over Yi Shiwen, but also swept over many people who were watching at the side. Obviously, they had noticed their existence. Everyone suddenly felt a chill. Such a cruel heart. He actually wanted to catch all of them in one fell swoop. This was not giving them a way out. And among these people, the first to bear the brunt was Yi Shiwen. It was even related to the king snake. In Xiang Hao's eyes, the king snake was just a dog. When the dog was old and weak and couldn't bite people, he would take the opportunity to kill it and have dog meat to eat. While she was also very clear about what Xiang Hao was thinking, but he also did not have good intentions. He was very clear that Yi Shiwen was not an ordinary strong enemy, and Xiang Hao was also not a good person. The two of them were likely to fight to the death, and at that time, he would have the opportunity to take advantage of it. Just a wisp of spirit. How dare you be presumptuous in front of me? Yi Shiwen sneered, not giving him any chance to continue to be fierce. He directly stepped forward and suddenly blasted out a punch. The terrifying fist force spread out, forming a terrifying storm that directly blasted towards the wisp of primordial spirit, wanting to kill it directly. Although this wisp of spirit was only a wisp of spirit, after being separated, it was actually no different from Xiang Hao. Courting death, Xiang Hao suddenly became furious, as if he was provoked by Yi Shiwen. He did not take the initiative to attack, but Yi Shiwen actually dared to attack. Was this not a slap in the face? Although Xiang Hao was only a wisp of his soul, his strength was first class. His fingertips instantly glowed with moonlight, and he struck out with his palm. A round moon was blasted down, and he wanted to kill Yi Shiwen. Boom! The fist and palm collided, directly setting off boundless waves of air, madly setting off layers of ripples, flying in all directions. So strong. Is this Xiang Hao's famous unique skill, falling moon palm? Legend has it that this set of palm technique is infinitely powerful. In the hands of Xiang Hao, it is even more invincible, difficult to meet a match. Just a wisp of spirit is so tyrannical. Is this Xiang Hao really so strong? Although many people knew that they had already been on Xiang Hao's kill list, and at this time, immediately escaping should be the best choice, but they still could not resist the curiosity in their hearts. One after another, they had no intention of leaving. If Yi Shiwen could block Xiang Hao, then they would be fine, but if he could not, then today would be the day of their death. However, compared to Xiang Hao's wisp of spirit, everyone was more optimistic about Yi Shiwen. After all, they had seen Yi Shiwen's strength, but Xiang Hao's strength was only in the legends. Of course, the most important thing was, no matter how strong Xiang Hao was, a wisp of spirit was only a wisp of spirit. How could it be able to defy the natural order? Yi Shiwen had just touched Xiang Hao's spirit, and immediately discovered that although it was just a wisp of spirit, Xiang Hao's strength was really extraordinary, even more tyrannical than Wang Shi. If it was the previous Yi Shiwen, forcibly withstanding this palm, the result would not be too big of a melody. Even if he was blasted to death, it would not be too big of a melody. But compared to the previous Yi Shiwen's strength, it was simply earth-shaking. Seeing that the punch did not work, Yi Shiwen did not have any depression. Instead, he blasted another punch at a more terrifying speed and strength. Xiang Hao's expression was also slightly strange. His eyes were also filled with disbelief. He knew very well that although it was only a strand of his primordial spirit, he actually had his own secret technique. That was why, even though it was only a strand of his primordial spirit, it was not weaker than his original body. In other words, even if the original body came personally, it could not take him down in one move. And what was even more exaggerated was that Yi Shiwen was only a warrior in the half-step law phase realm. Such a small character. Usually he would not pay attention to such a small character, but now he had to take him seriously. No wonder the trash while she could not beat him. This kid really had some skills. But it was only a few skills. The wisp of spirit immediately snorted coldly, and the palm shadow, like the wind, suddenly slammed down towards Yi Shiwen. It was another full moon. He was actually able to casually strike out this kind of palm technique concept. One could imagine how high his cultivation of palm techniques had reached. Although it was a little arrogant in terms of cultivation, it was far above Wang Shi. From this wisp of spirit, it could be seen that his strength was too terrifying. Every single palm strike seemed to be able to shatter heaven and earth. Yi Shiwen blasted out a punch, breaking through the endless blood chi, and set off a monstrous airwave. The two were like two monstrous fierce gods, not giving way to each other, and directly fighting in the air. Boom! 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 The aftermath of the battle between the two bombarded in all directions. The mechanical beast in the hall had already begun to feel uneasy. It could feel two terrifying auras far above the person in front of it. According to the set of logic, these two people were a greater threat, and it immediately began to panic. It had to get rid of the person in front of it before these two people arrived. At this time, the skinny young man suddenly suffered. He was originally not the opponent of this tiger-shaped mechanical beast, and now, under the efforts of this mechanical beast, he was even more stretched. Soon, he could not hold on any longer, and a loophole was exposed. This mechanical beast that was born to be a fighting machine immediately seized this opportunity and directly clawed at his body. Bang! His body was blasted away on the spot, and it was unknown how many of his ribs were broken. A mouthful of blood mixed with the fragments of his internal organs sprayed out. He hit the ground hard, and a huge pit was formed on the floor tiles. However, before he could turn around, the mechanical beast directly leaped and landed on his body. Ah! He screamed, and blood directly sprayed out, splashing all over the body of this tiger-shaped mechanical beast. His body had already been pierced by the sharp claws. And this mechanical beast was also extremely indifferent, as if it was not moved at all. Chapter 1097. Boom! 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 Yi Shiwen and Xiang Hao's battle was still ongoing. The tiger-shaped mechanical beast on the side was still roaring in a low voice, but it didn't move forward. This was because their battle had already left the palace. Although it wasn't too far away, for this tiger-shaped mechanical beast, as long as it stepped out of the palace, it would no longer be under its jurisdiction. Naturally, it didn't care. It only continued to roar in a low voice, warning the two of them to stay away. Otherwise, it might attack with a martial tool at any time. The two of them understood how terrifying this tiger-shaped mechanical beast was. They didn't intend to provoke it and force it into the opponent's camp. Although this beast wasn't a living creature, it was much more horrifying than the average living creature. Once it unleashed its might, it would truly be unafraid of death. Even if it was an opponent in the same realm, it would still be torn apart. Yi Shiwen could see that this strand of spirit wasn't simple at all. It probably wasn't an ordinary technique. Splitting a strand of spirit and sealing it within was a technique that Yi Shiwen was familiar with. However, a strand of spirit was only a strand of spirit. It couldn't be too tyrannical. This was a well-known fact. With Yi Shiwen's current strength, a strand of spirit that was split out would roughly have the strength of a transcendent realm. However, there were some special techniques that could increase the strength of this strand of spirit to the same level as the main body. Some major forces had such techniques. Normally, they wouldn't use such techniques. Firstly, the price was relatively high. Secondly, this strand of spirit would only exist for a short period of time. This was something that couldn't be helped. The spirit itself didn't have a physical body. The energy it could consume was from the spirit itself. It didn't seem like it had a physical body. For example, if Yi Shiwen's main body was here, no matter how much energy he consumed, his dantian would continuously replenish it. However, this kind of spirit couldn't be done. Once it entered its strongest battle state, it would quickly be exhausted. If it couldn't finish off its opponent within a short period of time, then everything would be over. The wisp of primordial spirit in front of him was probably like this. From Wang Shi's words just now, he could determine that since Xiang Hao was still trying to break through to the second heaven of the Transcendence realm, there was a limit to how strong he was. For a wisp of primordial spirit to be so strong, it could be imagined that he must have used a secret technique. And for him to give this kind of primordial spirit jade pendant to Wang Shi, it could be imagined that he valued Wang Shi very much, or rather, he valued the wealth that Wang Shi plundered. During this period of time, Wang Shi's reputation could be said to be notorious. Everyone hated him. It could be seen how many people he plundered, and most of these fell into the hands of Xiang Hao. For him, this should be a very important source of resources. No wonder he valued Wang Shi so much. These analyses only existed in Yi Shiwen's mind for a moment. He figured it out. His whole brain was working at high speed. In this case, this strand of spirit was nothing to be afraid of. On the contrary, he could take the opportunity to figure out how powerful his main body was. Since the two sides had already met, and Yi Shiwen was a thorn in his side that he wanted to get rid of, then the contradiction between the two sides must be irreconcilable. At this time, knowing oneself and the enemy would ensure victory. Although Yi Shiwen was confident, he was also very self-aware. He was not blindly arrogant. Everything was as Yi Shiwen expected. Although the attack of this strand of spirit was still fierce, its body had begun to gradually thin. Looking over, it seemed to be becoming more and more transparent. These were the most direct evidence that it was about to be exhausted. It's just a strand of spirit. It's about to dissipate now. Yi Shiwen sneered and increased his offensive. His fist momentum was like a wave. One punch after another, it was continuous, almost forcing this strand of spirit into a desperate situation. You are really strong. In the half-step law phase realm, I have not seen anyone stronger than you, but this is the end. At this time, Xiang Hao looked up to the sky and roared. Yi Shiwen thought that he was about to release some ultimate skill and was about to be careful. However, he saw that he instantly pinched hundreds of seals. His body rose with incomparable light, and a voice that sounded like chanting ancient scriptures rippled from his body. I don't care what you are. Destroy! Yi Shiwen shouted, and his fist turned into the power of stars. The mighty and mighty pulled out a tail of Star River and blasted towards Xiang Hao. It was precisely because he did not know what move it was that he needed to interrupt it. All danger in the cradle had always been Yi Shiwen's style. Just as Yi Shiwen's fist energy was about to hit Xiang Hao's body, a circle of light waves appeared on Xiang Hao's body, protecting him within it. Yi Shiwen couldn't even touch him at all. After the fist energy came into contact with these light waves, it actually collapsed and dispersed. And at this time, a crack came from the sky, and a mighty power poured from it directly into that strand of spirit. That strand of spirit that was originally about to disappear began to gradually fill up. Its eyes became brighter and brighter, and the aura of its body continued to strengthen bit by bit. Teleportation skill. A murderous intent appeared in Yi Shiwen's eyes. Someone was actually teleporting skill to Xiang Hao through the air. Suddenly, Xiang Hao's spirit that was about to collapse recovered. You over there, I don't care who you are. You have to die. If you offend me, there will be no place for you in the world. An identical cold voice came from the other side of the crack. It was exactly the same as Xiang Hao's voice. The person who was teleporting skill to him turned out to be Xiang Hao himself. No wonder Xiang Hao's spirit could recover so quickly. Moreover, it could absorb the power without any hindrance. It turned out that it was originally two sides of the same body. Naturally, there was no problem absorbing it. You're dead. Xiang Hao's spirit looked at Yi Shiwen coldly. The aura of its body was getting stronger and stronger. It was originally very tyrannical. After receiving the skill, it unexpectedly became more and more tyrannical. Soon, it surpassed the original critical point of its strength and set off towards a higher level. What the hell is this? Pretending to be mysterious. Yi Shiwen remained unmoved. He shouted coldly, and a lightsaber appeared in his hand. The lightsaber split into countless lightsabers in midair, and then formed a 90-degree angle with the lightsaber. The lightsaber's hilt intersected with the lightsaber. Looking from afar, the countless lightsabers actually formed a sword lotus. This sword lotus contained a terrifying fluctuation of sword ki. Xiang Hao's complexion slightly changed. He became completely serious. He must not be seriously injured by this sword lotus. And at this time, Yi Shiwen attacked. The sword lotus instantly swept out and turned into a beam of light. However, it was not aimed at Xiang Hao's spirit. Instead, it directly bombarded Xiang Hao's body on the other side of the crack. Yi Shiwen actually intended to kill Xiang Hao's body through the air. Since he couldn't stop Xiang Hao's primordial spirit from absorbing the power, he would eliminate his primordial spirit. As long as he eliminated his primordial spirit, it would be like a turtle in a jar. It would be impossible for him to escape. Everyone who understood this point exclaimed, Yi Shiwen was really audacious. One must know that the person on the other side of the crack was none other than the famous Xiang Hao's body. If he dared to do this, then what else would he not dare to do? Madman, really a madman? The sword lotus directly charged into the crevice with a speed as swift as a clap of thunder. Rumble! A huge explosion sound came from the other side of the crack along with Xiang Hao's flustered and exasperated voice. Damn it, damn it, damn it, boy, you actually dared to hurt me. You're finished. Xiang Hao's flustered and exasperated voice came from the opposite side. Obviously, he wasn't prepared for Yi Shiwen's attack at all. In the past, no one would have thought about this at all. In many people's opinion, since the spear was already so terrifying, then there was no need to mention the body. They were afraid that it would be an even more terrifying existence. Therefore, many people simply didn't think that Yi Shiwen could directly injure the body. Then, this spirit would become a rootless duckweed. Damn it, stop it! At this time, the wisp of Xiang Hao's spirit finally reacted. As a wisp of Xiang Hao's spirit, how could it not feel that Xiang Hao had just been accidentally injured, and his current situation was very bad? He was originally in closed-door training, and now he was suddenly injured by Yi Shiwen. It could be said that he suffered a heavy loss. Not only was he seriously injured, but his closed-door training state was also suddenly broken. It would be extremely difficult for him to regain the state of breakthrough. It could be said that although Yi Shiwen's attack was not fatal, it suddenly delayed his breakthrough time by countless times. How could he not feel hatred in his heart? Although it was only a wisp of spirit, but it itself was the same, there was no difference. And at this time, the crack in the sky also began to heal little by little, as if it had never been torn. Originally, law manifestation experts were not able to tear the space. He was able to tear a crack by relying on the power of a secret technique. Now that he was seriously injured by Yi Shiwen's sword lotus, how could he still maintain the crack? Yi Shiwen smiled proudly. Although he couldn't see the situation on the other side of the crack, he was naturally satisfied that the sword lotus had seriously injured him. However, he also secretly raised his vigilance in his heart. He was naturally clear about the power of his sword lotus. The buried sword's secrets had been improved, so its power was incomparable to before. Moreover, the sword lotus was an unfinished big move. If an ordinary person was hit by it, they would be torn apart on the spot. However, Xiang Hao was only seriously injured when he was caught off guard. It was conceivable that Xiang Hao's strength was unfathomable. Chapter 1098. Everyone was stunned by the battle between the two of them. Or rather, they were scared out of their wits. It was not the first time they had seen a battle between law manifestation realm masters, but it was the first time they had seen a battle that was thousands of miles away. Whether it was Xiang Hao's distant power transfer or Yi Shiwen's serious injury to Xiang Hao from thousands of miles away, they were all dazzled and had too much to take in. The fierceness and power of these two people were far beyond their imagination. They couldn't help but suck in a mouthful of cold air. Among the young people in the palace, these two people had already reached the peak. The others were simply vulnerable in front of these people. They were not Yi Shiwen's opponents at all. This Yi Shiwen is really lawless. This Yi Shiwen is really lawless. He dares to do anything. Xiang Hao was breaking through to the second sky of the law phase realm, and he actually destroyed it. Now he has suffered a serious injury. let alone breaking through to the second sky of the law phase realm. I don't know how long it will take for him to recover. I don't know how long it will take for him to break through. This is nothing. If we were in Yi Shiwen's position, I'm afraid we would be even more ruthless than him. If it weren't for the fact that Law Manifestation Realm doesn't have the ability to tier space and cross space, I think Yi Shiwen would definitely dare to cross space directly to Xiang Hao's body to kill him. They are all extraordinary people. Who knows where Yi Shiwen came from? He has become famous during this time, but the strange thing is that no one knows where he came from. It's as if he suddenly emerged from a crack in a rock. Many people were discussing, and many people were also guessing where he came from. It was impossible for such a person to be unknown before this. Such a person would be among the top geniuses in any sea region. However, they probably would never have thought that Yi Shiwen's strength was not worth mentioning in the eyes of these people half a year ago. In fact, some of them could even easily kill Yi Shiwen. Therefore, Yi Shiwen was not famous in their eyes because no one would pay attention to someone who was far weaker than them. At this time, Xiang Hao's wisp of soul was looking at Yi Shiwen with a dignified expression. From Yi Shiwen's attack just now, he could see that Yi Shiwen's strength was extraordinary, and he was even more vicious and merciless. If Xiang Hao's real body was here, he might be able to kill Xiang Hao, but now, it was just a wisp of soul, so everything would be troublesome. What is your origin? It may not be impossible for us to cooperate. In this palace, my body can form an alliance with you, and with our strength, we can completely sweep this palace. Xiang Hao stared at Yi Shiwen and asked, "What is your origin?" He was also pondering about Yi Shiwen's origins. After asking about my origin, you want to send your body out to find me and kill me? Yi Shiwen's words were shocking, and he actually directly revealed Xiang Hao's thoughts and plans. Xiang Hao was suddenly stunned. He did not expect that his thoughts would be seen through by Yi Shiwen. Yes, he did have such a plan, with such a great hatred. How could he not take revenge, let alone cooperate with Yi Shiwen? That was simply impossible. Although there was a saying that there were no eternal friends or eternal enemies, there were only eternal interests. However, Yi Shiwen had just severely injured his body, making it impossible for him to break into the second heaven of the Transcendence realm in a short period of time. Yi Shiwen had already deeply offended him and deeply hindered his interests. They just saw this, and you want to silence them. Such a person has the heart of a snake and scorpion. No matter how stupid I am, I will never think of cooperating with a snake and scorpion. Yi Shiwen said. He still firmly remembered Mr. Donghua's story. He could cooperate with anyone, but he could not let go of such a person. Damn it! Xiang Hao secretly cursed. He didn't expect that his scheme would actually be seen through. An average person would be deeply grateful if they could resolve their grudges with him. However, he had encountered a freak like Yi Shiwen who wasn't afraid of him. Because he was not afraid, he did not think of reconciling with him. Naturally, there was no way to hide this kind of plan from him. Let's just do it. I don't have so much time to waste with you. I still have to find your body and then kill him to avoid future troubles. Yi Shiwen said coldly. What? Xiang Hao was shocked. You are really crazy. It is good enough that my body does not look for trouble with you. You actually want to look for trouble with my body? In Xiang Hao's opinion, he had really lost his mind. He was really crazy. How could someone have such a crazy idea? Not only Xiang Hao, but the others, including Wang Shi, also seemed to be dumbfounded after hearing this sentence. Everyone did not expect that Yi Shiwen was actually planning such a thing. One must know that Xiang Hao is absolutely at the top among the younger generation. Except for a limited number of people in the Super Sea region, he could stand at the peak among the countless young people in the entire Endless Sea region. Such a person opened his mouth and said that he wanted to reconcile. It was already beyond everyone's imagination. As Xiang Hao thought, if it were them, they would have already been grateful. How would they dare to find his body and kill him? Although Yi Shiwen seemed to be able to contend with Xiang Hao's spirit, but the spirit was only a spirit. Such courage had far exceeded the limit of their imagination. However, they had never done it before. If they did not show such strength as Yi Shiwen, how could they wait for Xiang Hao to reconcile? Even if it was just a hypocritical reconciliation, it would be impossible. After the shock, Wang Shi began to smile bitterly. This was really a madman. He regretted it for the first time in his life. Even when he was about to be killed, he did not regret it. He only felt that his strength was inferior to Yi Shiwen's. But now he really regretted it, because he had provoked a madman. At this time, he seemed to really understand Yi Shiwen's thoughts. Yi Shiwen even dared to think about killing Xiang Hao's body, let alone a small character like him. In Xiang Hao's eyes, he was a dog. How could he not know that? But in Yi Shiwen's eyes, he was even worse than a dog. It was really like a goose in a lifetime, but in the end, a goose pecked his eyes. Yi Shiwen sneered and did not answer. Anyway, judging from Xiang Hao's character, as long as he recovered, he would definitely come to kill him. In that case, why not kill him before he recovered? In this way, the initiative would be completely in his hands. A seriously injured Xiang Hao was much easier to deal with than an intact Yi Shiwen. Do you think that my body only has this kind of strength? Although I have the strength of the original body, that was only a matter of 2 months ago. Now, compared to the current him, there has been an earth-shattering change. Xiang Hao quickly said. There was a trace of panic in his tone, even if he had confidence in his body. But in the face of such a killing god, his mind was somewhat shaken. He actually wanted to scare Yi Shiwen. But how could Yi Shiwen be scared so easily? He was scared since he was a child. Long-winded, Yi Shiwen directly stepped out and turned into a streamer in the sky, rushing towards Xiang Hao. In an instant, the sword light shot out and turned into a killing move, directly enveloping Xiang Hao. Compared to a moment ago, Yi Shiwen seemed to be a little more terrifying now. At this time, Xiang Hao did not care about the consumption of energy at all. He directly blasted out a terrifying attack. He wanted to keep Yi Shiwen here. At the very least, he wanted to seriously injure Yi Shiwen so that his body would have enough time to recover. As long as his body recovered, Yi Shiwen in front of him was no match for him at all. At this time, Xiang Hao was like a desperado. All kinds of large-scale, consumptive moves that he was reluctant to use were blasted out. The sky was full of the collision between the sword aura and the full moon. A sword aura smashed a full moon, then was immediately suppressed into nothingness by another full moon. And this full moon was instantly smashed into pieces by a few sword auras. Such terrifying collisions continued to play out in midair, and the terrifying battle attracted more and more masters. Even in this palace that gathered a considerable number of top masters of the younger generation in the Endless Sea region, there were not many fights at the Law Manifestation realm, let alone such a collision that could be called a top battle. Yi Shiwen did not want to delay any longer. He must find Xiang Hao's body as soon as possible and kill him to get rid of future troubles. Xiang Hao even ignored all his injuries in order to severely injure Yi Shiwen. Those who stand in my way will die. The sword light in Yi Shiwen's hand had transformed into the burial sword. All living creatures would be chopped into pieces by this sword. Although it was only the first move of the burial sword, it didn't mean that the power of the burial sword was weaker than the other two swords. In fact, it could be considered as a terrifying and peerless power technique as long as it was used properly. At the same time, his left hand continued to pinch the seals, and mountains continued to fall from the sky. It was the Hanzhan seal. The feeling of despair of mountains crashing down one by one was constantly playing in front of Xiang Hao's eyes. He was being beaten by Yi Shiwen again and again. Yi Shiwen was constantly alternating these two moves, making him exhausted and completely losing the confidence of a moment ago. He constantly shot out falling moon palms and smashed the mountains crashing down on his head. However, he had to face Yi Shiwen's countless sword lights which shrouded him, and he almost felt like he was going to go crazy. As the saying goes, the more you defend, the more you lose. Xiang Hao, who was constantly defending, finally began to show flaws. Although it was only for a moment, Yi Shiwen's combat experience was so rich that he immediately pierced through the sky, directly pierced through his defense and stabbed into his chest. Countless vitality that formed Xiang Hao's body together with his spirit began to collapse. Xiang Hao let out a long roar, and a trace of madness flashed in his eyes. Then the countless energy in his body began to boil crazily. He was going to self-destruct. You want to self-destruct? No way. Yi Shiwen saw it at a glance. He took the lead and directly grabbed Xiang Hao's spirit with his big hand. Chapter 1099. You want to self-destruct? Dream on? Yi Shiwen saw through it at a glance. He took the lead and grabbed Xiang Hao's spirit in his hand. He could tell at a glance that he wanted to protect himself. But how could he let him do as he pleased? He directly grabbed the primordial spirit in his hand, and then with a swipe of his hand, he forcibly erased the consciousness of this primordial spirit. Xiang Hao's eyes suddenly became cloudy. He stopped struggling and did not move. Yi Shiwen began to check Xiang Hao's spirit directly. Although it was not comparable to the main spirit, and Xiang Hao's memories were immediately destroyed when he self-destructed, there were still many key memories that fell into Yi Shiwen's eyes, including some of Xiang Hao's martial techniques, and some more secrets. Everyone suddenly felt a little scared. He actually dared to wipe out Xiang Hao's spirit and began to check the secrets in the depths of Xiang Hao's spirit. This was something that would attract more hatred than crushing him directly. It was conceivable that there was no way for the two sides to reconcile. In particular, Xiang Hao's primordial spirit contained many of Xiang Hao's secrets, and Yi Shiwen had seen through all of them in one breath. This was the reason why Xiang Hao's primordial spirit had decided to self-destruct after realizing that it was no match for Yi Shiwen. In Yi Shiwen's opinion, it was nothing at all. Originally, both sides were already irreconcilable enemies. So, there was no point in tolerating them anymore. Only by knowing oneself and knowing the enemy could one win 100 battles. However, Yi Shiwen did feel a bit more confident after looking at these things. From the memory, Xiang Hao's previous statement was not wrong. He might have the strength of his main body, but that was a few months ago. Even he did not know how strong Xiang Hao's main body was now. However, what was certain was that Xiang Hao had not stepped into the second level of the Law Phase realm. As long as he had not stepped into the second level of the Law Phase realm, then it was fine. If he had really stepped into the second level of the Law Phase realm, then even the current Yi Shiwen had to temporarily avoid him. As for fear, that was simply impossible. Even if he had now stepped into the second level of the Law Phase realm, it was impossible to kill Yi Shiwen. Suddenly, Wang Shi, who was lying motionless on the ground, suddenly jumped out and turned into a stream of light. It was unknown what secret technique he used, but he was about to disappear in front of everyone's eyes in an instant. Want to leave? Yi Shiwen coldly snorted, and a ball of flame ignited in his hand. It turned into a fiery long blade and instantly fell down. Boom! Wang Shi was about to escape from Yi Shiwen's field of vision when the blade light directly chopped his body. Bang! His body exploded on the spot, directly collapsing into pieces. He was not Yi Shiwen's opponent at all. His wealth was also swept away by Yi Shiwen. However, it was not as much as Yi Shiwen originally thought. Xiang Hao must have divided it up, so there was only less than 10 million bloodstones left. No wonder Wang Shi needed to keep robbing, because Xiang Hao asked for bloodstones too quickly, which forced him to rob many times because he also needed to practice. After beheading Wang Shi, Yi Shiwen immediately floated away, but he did not go to those secret chambers and palaces, but to find the place where Xiang Hao's close cultivation was. Although he didn't know where Xiang Hao was cultivating in seclusion from that wisp of primordial spirit, he was still in this palace. Most importantly, he still had this wisp of primordial spirit in his hand. He could use the special connection between this wisp of primordial spirit and Xiang Hao to find Xiang Hao. Although it would take some time, it was better than having no clues at all. Otherwise, it would be impossible for Yi Shiwen to find Xiang Hao by himself. Since Xiang Hao had chosen to undergo closed-door training in this palace, he would definitely choose the safest and most hidden place, just like Yi Shiwen had done before. He would not be discovered by anyone. If Yi Shiwen did not have this wisp of spirit, then he would immediately give up looking for Xiang Hao and try to enhance his strength as much as possible to cope with the changes. After Yi Shiwen left, the news of him beheading Xiang Hao's spirit and killing Wang Shi quickly began to spread throughout the palace. Sometimes word of mouth itself was the fastest way to spread news in the world. not to mention these martial arts masters who were successful in cultivation. Suddenly, all the warriors in the entire palace were stunned. One must know that if it was only Wang Shi, although he was notorious, many people just disdained to pay attention to this guy. But Xiang Hao was completely different. In this palace, there were not many masters who were comparable to him. Maybe they could be counted with one hand. Although it was only a wisp of spirit, Yi Shiwen was able to easily kill this wisp of spirit, which already proved that his strength was extraordinary. And the matter of Wang Shi working for Xiang Hao also caused the entire Jade Moon Sea area to be stirred up, especially those who had been sneak attacked by Wang Shi, or those who had friends killed by Wang Shi. They were even more indignant, and unanimously demanded Jade Moon Sea area to come out and give an explanation. If it was just one or two, perhaps the crowd wouldn't dare to ask the Jade Crescent Territorial Sea for an explanation. After all, the Jade Crescent Territorial Sea was one of the top large-scale territorial seas. In terms of strength, it was much more tyrannical than the middle-sized or small-sized territorial seas that most people were in. The overall strength of the Jade Crescent Territorial Sea wasn't something that they could compare with. However, as the saying goes, one mustn't offend the anger of the masses. When so many people demanded an explanation from the Jade Sea region, even the Jade Sea region seemed to have a headache. However, could they still push Xiang Hao out? Naturally not. So Jade Moon Sea area's meaning was that these were slander, blatant slander. They did not have the slightest intention of apologizing. Perhaps in their opinion, this itself was nothing. Since they chose to come to the blood world, they should be prepared for heavy casualties. However, the crowd did not think so. Although they were already prepared for heavy casualties, as the saying goes, birds die for food and men die for wealth. If it was just an ordinary fight for heaven and earth treasures, it would be fine. However, they were targeted and assassinated. Moreover, it was a Transcendence Realm master who massacred experts half a step into the Transcendence Realm. This indeed caused public outrage. Because if this kind of behavior was not curbed, then these half-step law manifestation realm warriors would have no safety to speak of. After all, if a law manifestation realm master was determined to sneak attack, how many half-step law manifestation realm masters could stop it? Only a freak like Yi Shiwen could possibly escape. But even so, wasn't he being chased like a stray dog? If it were others, they would not even be qualified to be a stray dog. They would simply be a character to be slaughtered. This suddenly caused many people to feel uneasy. Even those who were not targeted by Wang Shi at this time had a common enemy. This kind of behavior must be curbed. Otherwise, no one knew if they would be the next unlucky ones. Many people didn't believe that Jade Moon Sea region had only bribed Wang Shi. There must be others. However, this kind of behavior couldn't continue, especially for these geniuses. Perhaps they were just a step slower. They might be able to step into the Transcendence Realm at any time and become great figures. Now that they were going to die here, how could they be willing? At this time, not only were ordinary warriors filled with righteous indignation, but even several similar large sea areas began to add fuel to the fire, making this matter even more lively. Just when everyone was attracted by this matter, suddenly, an even more explosive news came out and immediately covered this matter. That was the door of the entire palace had been closed. As soon as this news came out, it almost immediately overshadowed all other news. It immediately caused an uproar among many experts. If the palace door was closed, then it meant that their escape route might be completely cut off, and they might not be able to get out. If the previous incident in the Jade Moon Sea region could be said to be a situation where some people were filled with righteous indignation, a few people were adding fuel to the fire, and the majority of people were just watching the show, then everyone was really nervous now. As soon as this news came out, many warriors began to turn back to check. Sure enough, when they looked, the entire hall had begun to be blocked by a door. This door was very sturdy. Even if a law manifestation realm expert made a move, there was no way to break it. Even a few law manifestation realm experts could not open this door. At this time, everyone began to become nervous. Everyone started to get nervous. All kinds of conspiracy theories started to clamor. Many people even started to have doubts. They weren't fools. On the contrary, they were all outstanding elites. In fact, they already had doubts about the rationality of this map. However, because of their greed for the unknown wealth, even though they knew that there might be a problem, they still chose to continue exploring. After that, regardless of whether it was in the underground base or in this palace, they obtained a lot of benefits. Gradually, the worry in their hearts was put down. But now, as the doors of the palace were suddenly closed, everyone's mood plummeted to the bottom. The good mood of obtaining a lot of wealth had vanished without a trace, especially when they couldn't figure out the content of the conspiracy, which made them feel even more uneasy. All kinds of suspicions and conspiracy theories were clamoring. Because of this matter, no one was in the mood to look for trouble in the Blue Moon Sea area. This included Yi Shiwen. The sudden closure of the palace gate made him even more worried. Chapter 1100. Coupled with the previous things, Yi Shiwen began to feel that these things had become unusual. Compared to this unusual thing, the matter of Blue Moon Sea area Xiang Hao seemed insignificant. Although Yi Shiwen was afraid of him, he was only afraid. Even if Xiang Hao really advanced to the second heaven of the law manifestation realm, he could not kill Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen was still confident that he could escape unscathed. Therefore, this was not the top priority at the moment. Although the underground palace complex was huge, Yi Shiwen quickly found Jian Wushuang and the others. Through the rumors these days, they also clearly knew that Yi Shiwen not only did not die, but he also killed Wang Shi. But when they saw Yi Shiwen again, they still felt extremely happy. Did you really kill him? When Miao Cici saw Yi Shiwen, she was still very excited to ask about this matter. Yes. Yi Shiwen nodded and did not deny it. The others looked at Yi Shiwen with some astonishment. Wang Shi's strength was indeed at the law manifestation realm, and Yi Shiwen's strength, who could easily kill him, must have reached an unimaginable level. Even a wisp of Xiang Hao's spirit was blown up on the spot by Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen's progress during this period of time was really amazing. Although Yi Shiwen's strength was strong before, but generally speaking, he was still on the same level. But now it could be said that the two of them were not on the same level anymore. Unless they could enter the law manifestation realm, they could catch up with Yi Shiwen's footsteps again. But at that time, they did not know to what extent Yi Shiwen had improved. Although Yi Shiwen's realm was still the lowest among them, in fact, he was already above everyone else. Except for Jian Wushuang, it was the first time that everyone saw such an amazing speed of progress from Yi Shiwen. At this time, they roughly understood why Yi Shiwen's realm was the lowest among them, but his strength was above everyone else's. Haha, then we can really do whatever we want in the future. Miao Cici's little face was full of excitement. She put her hands on her hips and roared to the sky. Is this the time to talk about this? Gao Xian said helplessly. The point now is how to get out of this palace. I have a very bad feeling. The others also nodded. At this time, no one was in the mood to continue the treasure hunt. Compared to the treasure hunt, getting out of here was the most important thing at this stage. From the looks of it, this matter might very well be a conspiracy. Yi Shiwen said, our top priority right now is to find a way to get out of this place. However, it seems that we don't have a clue at the moment. But no matter what kind of conspiracy it is, and no matter who arranged the means, it will eventually appear. So, the only thing we can do now is to increase our strength as soon as possible and deal with the ever-changing situation by remaining unchanged. At this time, instead of running around like headless flies, the clueless crowd might as well raise their strength and deal with a myriad of changes by remaining unchanged. Yi Shiwen and the others chose to wait and see. However, in the palace, more people began to get anxious because they couldn't open the palace gate. They didn't know what material the palace gate was made of. Even if a few law manifestation realm experts joined forces, they couldn't break the gate. Some people speculated that it might require the strength beyond the law manifestation realm to break the gate and get out. Those who were able to come here were undoubtedly the best of the best in their respective sea regions, especially the experts from the larger sea regions. In their forces, there were experts who had surpassed the Transcendence realm, For them, it was not strange. Perhaps after hundreds or thousands of years, they could also reach such a level. It did not seem to be a dead end, but the problem was that the blood world would not give them so much time. Once they were trapped inside, they would be assimilated by the power of the blood world in a few years. In the end, they would age faster and die miserably here. The wealth on them might also become the source of wealth for the next batch of young experts who wandered in the blood world hundreds of years later. Thinking of this, countless experts began to lose their composure. The entire palace seemed to be fixed by a powerful barrier, and there was no way to break out by destroying it. This place used to be the base of the Blood Union. It had been operated for countless years, and it had been reinforced countless times. It was unrealistic to want to get out in a short time. In other words, if they couldn't get out in a short time, they might be left here forever, and they would die in just a few hundred years. It was equivalent to their lives ending just when they had just started. Even many young experts with strong wills began to go a little crazy in this situation. In the face of despair, there were not many people who could really remain calm. The killings here began to increase gradually. Because they felt that there was no hope of getting out, everyone began to go crazy. Because of a small quarrel, they would kill each other. In the short span of a month, the number of casualties had already exceeded the total number of casualties from before. Everyone seemed to have lost the desire to continue searching for treasures, the desire to increase their strength. In any case, they were going to die sooner or later. Was it really that important to search for treasures now or not? As more and more people held such a thought, the warriors in the entire palace complex began to go crazy. The killings began to increase gradually, and the blood color in the air became thicker. At this time, a piece of news also began to spread among the crowd. That was in the palace, there was a tunnel leading to the outside world. This news immediately attracted the attention of countless experts. Although they didn't know where the news came from, everyone who had almost fallen into madness didn't care so much. Even if there was only a little hope, it was enough for them to go all out. Moreover, this was very normal in everyone's eyes. Any base must have such an escape route. Although they might not be able to use it, once it was used, it would save their lives. Everyone began to search for that so-called passageway in a frenzy. Very soon, there was news that the entrance of a passageway had been discovered. Then, everyone began to gather in that direction. In a side hall of the palace, a fierce sword aura filled the entire palace. Above the palace, there were countless lightning tribulations that had turned into sword intents, and they crazily smashed down on the palace. A figure holding a long sword constantly smashed the sword intent lightning tribulations, and then transformed and absorbed them. After an unknown period of time, these lightning tribulations were finally completely smashed. The figure finally landed, and the aura on his body became stronger and stronger. The sword aura swept through his body with unimaginable fluctuations. After a long time, the sword aura gradually converged. This person was none other than Jian Wushuang. This month of secluded cultivation has not been in vain. Cultivating in this blood realm is really 100 times better than cultivating in other places, Jian Wushuang said as he kept his long sword. In this month, he finally cultivated to the peak of the half-step law manifestation realm and attracted heaven tribulation in the palace. He finally passed heaven tribulation and successfully became a law manifestation realm expert. After a while, a few others came from the corner and looked at Jian Wushuang, who was one step ahead of them, with some envy. However, they calmed down immediately. They would reach this step sooner or later. It was just a matter of time. Jian Wushuang, although you are one step ahead of me, I will catch up with you soon. Miao Sisi stepped forward and said, "Is Yi Shiwen still not out of seclusion?" Jian Wushuang ignored the high-spirited Miao Sisi and asked. During this period of time, he was in deep seclusion. Not yet, but I think it will be soon. After all, he is not going to break through and can come out at any time. Gao Xin said, "But how much do you think about the escape passage this time is true? It doesn't matter to us whether it is true or not, because we have to give it a try. I don't want to die in this damn place." Jin Wushuang's eyes were as sharp as swords. He had just broken through to the law manifestation realm and was full of confidence. If there is any conspiracy, it should be revealed. Even if I die in battle, it is better than dying of old age here. The others nodded. For them, was there anything more unacceptable than dying of old age? They would rather die in battle than accept such a sullen way of death. Count me in. At this time, a figure walked out from outside. It was none other than Yi Qianqian. You have recovered to the half-step law manifestation realm? Saiku Yin stared at Yi Qianqian, who he hadn't seen for a month. A month ago, Yi Qianqian wasn't even in the transcendent realm. After a month, she had recovered to the half-step law manifestation realm. Even if she was recovering, this speed was still shocking. After such a long time, even if Yi Qianqian was still indifferent, everyone more or less understood Yi Qianqian's situation. They knew that her shoulder blades were locked, and she had been trying to recover her strength. However, they didn't expect her to recover so quickly. I seem to have found a way, Yi Qianqian said with a faint smile. In this 1 month, she had recovered much faster than the previous few months. Just as he said, she seemed to have found a way. Although it was getting more and more difficult, the speed of recovery was getting faster. Then, I will lend you a hand. At this time, a cold voice came from the inner hall. Chapter 1101. Yi Shiwen? Several people turned their heads to look. Isn't it Yi Shiwen? It seemed that Jin Wushuang's heavenly tribulation had not only awakened Yi Qianqian from her closed-door cultivation, but also completely awakened Yi Shiwen. Compared to Yi Shiwen's breakthrough, Yi Shiwen and Yi Qianqian could wake up from their closed cultivation at any time, so they didn't mind being disturbed. Yi Shiwen looked at Yi Qianqian. He hadn't expected that her progress would be so great in this 1 month. It seemed that the chains on her shoulder blades hadn't been able to restrain her. Instead, it had become the best way for her to hone herself. Congratulations on breaking into the law manifestation realm. Yi Shiwen smiled and cupped his hands. After all, the law manifestation realm and the transcendent realm were two completely different levels. Even in a small sea region like the Flourish Cloud Sea region, the transcendent realm could only be regarded as an expert. Only the law manifestation realm could be regarded as a big shot. Even in a large sea region, the law manifestation realm experts would receive enough respect. This was a line separating heaven and hell. Yi Shiwen smiled. He knew that even if he entered the law manifestation realm, he might not be Yi Shiwen's opponent. A month ago, Yi Shiwen's strength could already kill an expert like Wang Shi. Now, Yi Shiwen's strength had improved by leaps and bounds. As I said just now, I'll lend you a hand. Yi Shiwen turned his head to look at Yi Qianqian and said. His arm grabbed toward the void, and a long saber appeared in his hand. He held it firmly. Boom! A terrifying aura swept out from the long saber in an instant. Everyone present was an accomplished expert, but they were all pushed back by this aura. They suddenly looked at the long saber in his hand in horror. Such a strong aura. Even the heaven-grade martial instrument I have seen before is not so terrifying. Gao Xian murmured. Everyone didn't know that Yi Shiwen actually had such a terrifying magic tool in his hands, but everyone soon understood why Yi Shiwen didn't take it out before. Firstly, it might be because he wanted to keep it as a trump card, and secondly, he might not be able to control this long blade. That was because they all saw that the back of Yi Shiwen's hand that was holding the long blade was trembling slightly. After such a long time, everyone knew how terrifying Yi Shiwen's strength was. His punch could turn the entire mountain into dust. It was unknown how many tons of strength he had. However, he couldn't even hold this long blade. It could be seen that this long blade was really extraordinary. However, everyone saw that Yi Shiwen didn't intend to explain, so they didn't ask much. Yi Qianqian was exceptionally intelligent. She immediately understood Yi Shiwen's meaning. A slight smile appeared on her delicate and pretty face. She had been waiting for this day. Originally, she thought that she would have to wait until she got out of the blood world to find someone to remove the chain on her shoulder blade. She didn't expect it to happen so soon. She didn't ask why Yi Shiwen didn't remove the chain for her before. It was as if these things didn't exist at all. She didn't even need to think about it to know what Yi Shiwen was worried about. However, she didn't blame Yi Shiwen because anyone would have such worries. She even benefited from the disaster, and her strength was actually cultivated back. I don't have the confidence to control this long blade. However, at this moment, I can only give it a try. Yi Shiwen said with concentration. Well, you can do it, Yi Qianqian said. She understood that if Yi Shiwen's hand trembled slightly, she might be split in half. Even someone as knowledgeable as she had never seen such a terrifying, fierce blade. It was like the weapon of a legendary demon god. Although Yi Shiwen tried his best to suppress the murderous aura on the blade, she could still clearly feel the extremely terrifying murderous aura in the blade. It could make a person with a weak mind go crazy on the spot. No wonder Yi Shiwen didn't take out this fierce blade even when he was chased by Hao Tsang in a desperate situation. It was because this blade itself was a double-edged sword. It could hurt others, but it could also hurt oneself. Yi Shiwen shouted in a low voice. His eyes stared at the chain on his shoulder blade. He held the blade with both hands, and blue veins popped up on his arms. Countless qi emerged, not to increase the power of the blade, but to suppress this fierce blade. Everyone held their breath and stared at this scene. They were afraid that Yi Shiwen's hand would accidentally shake. If that happened, it would really cause everlasting regret. Dang! However, they heard a crisp sound, and the long saber smoothly picked up the chain, almost cutting through iron like mud. The alloy that Yi Shiwen and Yi Qianqian were originally helpless against was simply vulnerable under the blade of the emergent's immortal exterminating saber. The long blade suddenly clanged, and countless saber aura surged. The murderous aura was also going to affect Yi Shiwen through the blade. Suppress it for me! Yi Shiwen shouted loudly. Countless real elemental energy emerged, mixed with countless divinities, and instantly wrapped the emergent's immortal exterminating saber's blade. It forcefully suppressed the saber aura and prevented it from wreaking havoc. Immediately after, Yi Shiwen quickly moved and lifted the chain on the other side. Dang dang! Two crisp sounds were heard. The two chains that locked the shoulder blades directly fell to the ground. The cut was very neat and incomparably smooth. The two hideous bloody holes on Yi Qianqian's shoulders also slowly began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye after they were no longer bound. At the same time, an even greater power surged out of Yi Qianqian's body. This power that had been suppressed by the chain seemed to have been reborn. It broke out of her body and formed a huge cloud above her head. It was like the legendary, auspicious cloud. The two powers that Yi Qianqian had cultivated began to merge together under her intentional fusion. Boom! After Yi Qianqian's aura climbed to the peak, she actually broke through to the late stage of the half-step transcendence realm in one go. However, her aura did not stop there. It climbed all the way to the peak of the late stage of the half-step transcendence realm and was still climbing. The power that had been suppressed for many years had been hidden in her body, but it had been locked by the chain on her shoulder blades and could not be unleashed. Now that the shackles were removed, the power in her body began to rise rapidly. In the sky, countless layers of clouds began to condense. She was actually going to undergo the tribulation. No way! Is this even possible? Saiku Yin stared dumbfounded at the tribulation clouds that had appeared in the sky. He had thought that Yi Qianqian's cultivation base would be the lowest among them, even if the shackles on her body were removed. He did not expect her cultivation base to skyrocket the moment the shackles were removed, and now she was about to undergo tribulation. Even they could only vaguely feel that the tribulation was about to arrive, but it had not yet arrived. Instead, Yi Qianqian had arrived one step ahead of them. Moreover, it was not the kind of forceful increase. Instead, it was because of her profound and smooth cultivation. Yi Qianqian had been an expert at the mid-stage of the half-step transcendence realm for a long time. Later, she was caught by Hao Tsang, and her cultivation had not improved for many years. However, she had been cultivating all the time. Therefore, although her cultivation did not seem to have increased, The solid foundation she had laid was far beyond anyone's imagination. After integrating the power that she had cultivated in the past few months, she instantly broke through to the late stage of the half-step transcendence realm and was even about to undergo the tribulation. This 9-in source form is indeed powerful. Yi Shiwen put away the emergence immortal exterminating saber. He still had no way of controlling the emergence immortal exterminating saber. Even the current Yi Shiwen could only barely suppress the emergence immortal exterminating saber. He was still far from being able to control it freely. Even if it was kept in the Tianyuan mirror, this murderous saber had to be locked in it with an array. Otherwise, the entire world of the Tianyuan mirror might be broken by him. Unfortunately, Yi Shiwen did not have the sacrificial training method of the emergence immortal exterminating saber. Otherwise, he would be like the emergent school leader. Even if he did not have enough cultivation, he could forcibly use it for a short period of time by relying on a special sacrificial training method. Of course, the bigger reason was that Yi Shiwen had erased the old ghost spirit in the emergence immortal exterminating saber. If he had the old ghost cooperation and control, Yi Shiwen would still be able to use the emergence immortal exterminating saber. However, this kind of tool spirit itself was a source of restlessness. It was very dangerous. If one was not careful, they might hurt themselves before hurting others. After all, Yimo was unique. Yi Shiwen did not trust the old ghost at all. He would rather erase its existence than let the resentful old ghost control the emergence immortal exterminating saber. However, even if there were various reasons, Yi Shiwen could not help but sigh when he saw Yi Qianqian start to cross the heavenly tribulation with ease. The 9-in source was really amazing. Among the many gifted physiques, the 9-in source was also well known. Yi Mo had previously said that the cultivation speed was far beyond ordinary people's imagination. Once it was released, it would be even more so. At this time, Yi Qianqian's heavenly tribulation finally arrived. Compared to Jin Wushuang's, Yi Qianqian's heavenly tribulation was even more terrifying. Various exotic beasts transformed in the thunder tribulation and roared as they rushed towards Yi Qianqian. Although it was not comparable to the situation when Yi Shiwen was crossing the heavenly tribulation for the people present, it was enough to make them dumbfounded. They were also very clear that the more terrifying the heavenly tribulation was, the more it proved that this person's talent and potential was very terrifying. Even they, who were also known as geniuses, did not have this kind of talent and heavenly tribulation. However, although the heavenly tribulation was terrifying, it seemed to be a piece of cake for Yi Qianqian. Yi Qianqian took mysterious steps and killed these exotic beasts. Moreover, as Yi Qianqian continued to kill these exotic beasts, it seemed that every exotic beast that was killed had some energy absorbed by Yi Qianqian. Then, she became stronger. After another 2 hours, when Yi Qianqian finally killed all the exotic beasts and dispersed the tribulation cloud circle, the barrier that had solidified in her body for a long time was finally broken, and she directly entered the law manifestation realm. Chapter 1102. Yi Qianqian had broken through to the transcendence realm in one fell swoop, but her improvement was not over. Unlike Jian Wushuang, who had only advanced to the first heaven of the transcendence realm, her cultivation rose all the way to the peak of the first heaven of the transcendence realm before finally stopping. She slowly descended. Although she had finally broken through to the transcendence realm, she did not have the slightest complacent expression. It was as if everything was so logical and natural. The accumulation of many years had finally erupted in one day, and she had broken through to the realm that many people dreamed of, but might not be able to enter in their lifetime. Miao Sisi and the others were slightly envious. They were originally a group of people. Although Yi Shiwen was still in the early stage of the half-step transcendence realm, his strength had broken through to the transcendence realm first, followed by Jian Wushuang, and then Yi Qianqian, who they thought should have been at the bottom. However, they were just envious. After all, they were one. The stronger everyone was, the more secure they were. Wow! Including Sister Yi, we have 3 experts in the Transcendence realm on our side. Even compared to those large sea areas, we are not at a disadvantage. Moreover, Big Brother Yi can even compete with Xiang Hao and Gong Sun Juan Hao. TSK, then we really don't have to be afraid of them. Miao Cici was the first to react. Her mind was relatively simple, and all she could think about was the scene where she could do whatever she wanted and then be awe-inspiring. Everyone suddenly laughed. It had to be said that at this critical moment, Jian Wushuang and Yi Qianqian's breakthroughs had made everyone's suspenseful hearts greatly relieved. This time, whether the legendary escape passage was real or not, with Yi Shiwen and the others around, it was much more secure. The originally uncertain future seemed to be much brighter. Yi Shiwen, your saber, that door, Jian Wushuang said. Although he did not want to pry into Yi Shiwen's privacy, Yi Shiwen's emergence, immortal exterminating saber, suddenly gave him a new hope, a hope to break through the door. Even a full blow from a Transcendence realm expert could not shake the door, but Yi Shiwen's emergence, immortal exterminating saber could. When everyone heard this, they immediately looked at Yi Shiwen eagerly. After all, compared to the illusory, so-called escape passage, Yi Shiwen's emergence, immortal exterminating saber, was more reliable. Yi Shiwen smiled and said, "This saber is a murderous saber. It once slaughtered immortals, so it was also contaminated with the resentment of immortals. Ordinary people will be completely invaded by the spirit and go crazy once they hold of the hilt, so I would not take it out in normal circumstances. But this time, if the so-called escape passage is fake, I will use to open the way." When everyone heard what Yi Shiwen said, they finally understood the danger of this saber. Although they had never seen the terrifying scene when the emergence, immortal exterminating saber unleashed its power, it was enough to imagine that kind of terrifying scene just from the fact that it had slaughtered immortals. Although they did not believe from the bottom of their hearts that there was a murderous weapon that could slaughter immortals, with Yi Shiwen's character, he would not be so sure if it was just a rumor. In other words, this murderous blade might have really killed a celestial before. That would be too terrifying. Even in the ancient Barrens continent, the legends of the Celestials were extremely distant legends. They were a group of people who were rumored to be able to contend against the gods. They were once the rulers of a distant era. In many people's hearts, immortals were almost the same. They belonged to the creatures of myths and legends. With such a lethal weapon in hand, even if Yi Shiwen couldn't display the true power of this murderous blade, he could still break open the door by relying on its sharpness. Everyone had seen how he had easily broken the alloy chain on his shoulder blade a moment ago, and this had made them even more confident in themselves. Thinking until here, everyone's mood suddenly became better. Their originally anxious and uneasy mood also immediately calmed down. At the very least, they now knew another way out. Even if this escape route was fake, so what? If that's the case, that's great, Miao Cici said excitedly. Her original uneasiness disappeared at once. Let's go. Let's hurry to that passage. Miao Cici's excited mood was as if she was going on a spring outing. And let's go. This time, I think if there is really a mastermind behind this, it should be revealed. I don't believe that their purpose is as simple as trapping us in it, said Yi Shiwen. Demons, monsters, clowns, it's time to jump out. Yes, I also want to meet them, said Jian Wushuang. Everyone nodded in agreement. The depression they felt during this period of time, the despair of being trapped in it for countless years. If they had not experienced it themselves, how could they understand that kind of despair? All of this was very likely to be man-made. The anger in everyone's hearts finally had an outlet. Other than Yi Shiwen, who had the emergence immortal exterminating saber in his hand and was only afraid of the possible existence of the mastermind, he didn't feel that he couldn't get out. Everyone else was trembling with fear. Although they had decided to stay put to deal with all the changes, they were still paying attention to the news outside at all times. If this continued, in a few years, they didn't even dare to say whether they would start to fall into madness because they had no hope of getting out. In this 1 month, Although they had cleared out all the mechanical beasts in the vicinity of this palace, they would often be ambushed by cultivators who felt that there was no hope of escaping and had fallen into a state of complete madness and slaughter. This caused their nerves to be in a state of tension all the time. Now they could relax. After the decision was made, everyone did not hesitate any longer. Their figures turned into a stream of light and flew toward the rumored escape route. In a spacious and boundless hall, hundreds and thousands of experts gathered from all directions, causing the entire hall to be extremely noisy. Experts from various forces and seas stood in their respective camps. Their eyes were fixed on a blood-red light screen not far away. Behind the blood-red light screen was the existence of the legendary passage. This was an escape passage that had been built countless years ago, so that one day, if the base was really attacked, they could take the opportunity to escape. In front of this light screen, there were 10 terrifying mechanical beasts crawling in front of it. They did not move at all like stone statues. However, no one dared to underestimate these mechanical beasts because once they got too close, they might alarm these mechanical beasts. Once these mechanical beasts were alarmed, they would probably have to flee for their lives. This was because they could see that the strength of these mechanical beasts had long entered the law manifestation realm. Moreover, they were not ordinary law manifestation experts. Everyone was somewhat relieved because these mechanical beasts were only mechanical beasts, not real blood fiends or blood demons. Otherwise, how could they get so close to them? Perhaps they would have already started a massacre. In front of everyone, there were 3 figures standing in midair, faintly leading the crowd. They were 2 men and 1 woman. Yi Shiwen and the others quickly arrived and blended into the crowd. They were inconspicuous. After scanning the entire hall, his eyes quickly landed on the 3 figures in front of the crowd. Yi Shiwen had seen one of them before. It was Gongsun Jianhao. He stood in the middle of the 3, and on his left stood a beautiful woman in white. Her expression was arrogant as she looked at the mechanical beasts in front of her. Her watery eyes seemed to be thinking about some kind of scheme, thinking about how to defeat these mechanical beasts. On the other side of him stood another stalwart figure. His figure was straight like a spear, and his breath was endless. Although Yi Shiwen had never seen these 2 people before, he still recognized them at once. Although there were many law manifestation realm masters who entered the palace complex this time, among these people, only 4 could be regarded as the top. 3 men and 1 woman. In addition to Gongsun Jianhao, there was also his sworn enemy, Xiang Hao. Since these 2 could stand side by side with Gongsun Jianhao, they were probably the remaining 2. If the woman's guess was right, she should be the only female master among the 4, Xiahou Shuolan. Her strength was unfathomable, and she had many supporters among the vast number of warriors. It was said that even Xiang Hao was one of her pursuers, and the other one should obviously be another top master, Lin Li. The only thing that surprised Yi Shiwen was that he did not see Xiang Hao's whereabouts. Could it be that Xiang Hao had not recovered from his serious injuries and had not come out yet? So much, so that he even missed such an important thing? Yi Shiwen was a little puzzled in his heart, but he did not say anything and just watched quietly. What should we do? What should we do? Behind that blood curtain is the escape route, but those mechanical beasts are a little too terrifying. If we really alarm them, I am afraid that even the law manifestation realm masters will not be able to bear the consequences. Someone next to Yi Shiwen complained. That can't be helped. If it really doesn't work, I'm afraid that we can only force our way through. Otherwise, there is no other way at all. In this way, those of us who are not strong enough will definitely have to stay. No, we can't do this. If there is no safe way, I think it is better not to break through. Everyone said one after another. Obviously, they were unusually worried. These mechanical beasts gave everyone too much pressure. And at this moment, there was a sudden commotion in the crowd. Xiang Hao is here. Look, those people from Blue Crescent Sea are here. Chapter 1103. Xiang Hao is here. Look, the people from Jade Moon Sea region are here. It was unknown who shouted, but immediately, everyone's gaze turned towards the horizon. Indeed, Dozens of flowing lights streaked across the sky. They were the experts of the Jade Moon Sea region, and the person leading them was none other than Xiang Hao. Xiang Hao's face was cold as he flew across the sky. Behind him were dozens of experts from the Jade Moon Sea region. Some of them had already reached the Transcendence realm, while the rest were at least experts half a step into the Transcendence realm. The strength of the Jade Moon Sea region could be seen from this. It was far from what those medium-sized sea regions could compare to. Even though many people were very dissatisfied with Wang Shi's incident and were filled with righteous indignation, even so, no one dared to find trouble with them directly. This was because of the tyrannical strength of Jade Moon Sea region. Even if Xiang Hao and a few other law manifestation realm experts were excluded, the remaining experts were enough to suppress any medium-sized sea region, or even a joint attack from a few medium-sized sea regions. This was where the confidence of a large sea region came from. Therefore, even after Wang Shi's incident, Jade Moon Sea region only remained silent and did not have the slightest intention of apologizing. Even if there were no experts of the same level to suppress Xiang Hao, it would be useless no matter how many of those indignant people went. The reason why they could cause trouble before was that they thought Yi Shiwen would stand up for them. At least in their opinion, Yi Shiwen was someone who could compete with Xiang Hao. With him as the support, these people dared to cause trouble. The reason why there was no news of Yi Shiwen after that, in addition to the news that their escape route had been sealed, was that they found out that Yi Shiwen did not intend to stand up. Although they were very angry, they were also afraid of being caught. Even such a big bird like Yi Shiwen, who had stood out, did not know where to go. How could they dare to go against the wind and rush forward? Jade Moon Sea region. Xiang Hao. Yi Shiwen's eyes flickered, and a faint killing intention flashed through them. Jian Wushuang and the others also looked at Xiang Hao coldly and clenched their fists. Although they did not seem to have much hatred, in fact, if it were not for Yi Shiwen's outburst and holding Wang Shi back, they would have been dead for a long time. All the wealth they had accumulated would have become a wedding dress for others. Needless to say, the hatred between the two sides was enough. Xiang Hao's eyes were like an eagle's as he swept through the crowd and almost instantly found Yi Shiwen and his group among the crowd. Suddenly, a terrifying aura enveloped everyone. Everyone suddenly felt as if they were being stared at by a terrifying, ominous beast. The Zhen Yuan on Yi Shiwen's body almost immediately leapt up. This was an automatic reaction in the face of danger. Compared to the wisp of primordial spirit from before, the current Xiang Hao's original body was many times stronger. Although that wisp of primordial spirit was said to have the strength of the original body, in reality, it was only Xiang Hao from a few months ago. A few months ago, Xiang Hao could already easily kill Wang Shi, let alone now. He was already preparing to enter the second sky of the Law Phase realm. If he hadn't been severely injured by Yi Shiwen, he would have already entered the second sky of the Law Phase realm. Even among the four of them, he was probably the best. It was easy to imagine how great of a threat the main body posed to the crowd was. "Get lost! I'm going to kill someone!" Xiang Hao's shout shook the crowd. Then, without any warning, he leaped into the crowd. Bang! 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 Where his terrifying Zhen Yuan swept through, many warriors of the half-step Law Phase realm could not dodge in time and were blasted into a bloody mist. Xiang Hao's ferocity could be imagined. These people were only affected by him and were severely injured. But at this time, he directly rushed down and unleashed a falling moon palm, which exploded in the vast sky. It transformed into a bright moon and rushed towards Yi Shiwen to suppress him. In this bright moon, countless amounts of spiritual ether rolled over. It was truly terrifying. Yi Shiwen did not move. His hands directly tore out countless golden lights, and the bright moon in the sky was torn apart by him. However, Yi Shiwen wasn't someone who would passively take a beating and not fight back. He didn't hesitate at all. He took a big stride forward and leaped forward. His fist turned into a huge star and directly smashed towards Xiang Hao. He didn't show any mercy. "How dare you?" Seeing that Yi Shiwen actually dared to attack him, Xiang Hao was shocked and angry, as if he had never been provoked before. He was also shocked that his attack was easily broken by Yi Shiwen. Previously, it was just a wisp of spirit, so there was nothing to say. But now that his main body had personally come out, if he could not easily defeat Yi Shiwen, then he only felt that he had lost all his face. Immediately, Yi Shiwen's fist overflowed, and the fist intent began to expand outwards. At this time, Yi Shiwen was like an invincible Lord God. Bang! Xiang Hao spread out his hands and blocked Yi Shiwen's punch, but his body also took 2 steps back in succession before he stabilized his figure. It was a sharp contrast to the ease with which Yi Shiwen easily resolved his attack just now. His face became even uglier, and he could not hold it anymore. At this time, the battle between the two quickly attracted the attention of many masters, especially Gongsun Juanhao and the others who were watching the two people in the battle with interest. In fact, although these people were mentioned together, their relationship was not very good, and the aftermath of the battle spread out, almost causing the 10-stone statue-like mechanical beast to begin to react. The aftermath of the battle might wake them up. At this time, they also recognized Yi Shiwen's identity. They had also heard about Yi Shiwen killing Xiang Hao's spirit avatar some time ago, and then severely injuring him, making it impossible for him to break through to the second level of the law manifestation realm in a short time. Even after that, everyone surged to the Blue Moon Sea area to demand an explanation. They also added fuel to the fire behind the scenes. They were also secretly glad that Xiang Hao did not step into the second level of the law manifestation realm. In fact, if Xiang Hao stepped into the second level of the law manifestation realm one step ahead of them, then with his strong character, how could he let the others have it easy? And to be able to cultivate to this stage, they were all leaders of the major sea areas. Which one of them was not an extremely strong and ambitious character? Even a woman like Xiahou Xiulan, who could suppress countless male warriors and become the leader of the sea area, was not a simple character. In terms of means, she was probably even better than these people. At this time, seeing the battle between the two people, they would only be secretly happy and would not want to stop it at all. They could not wait for the two people to fight to the death. But now, the situation was different. At this time, whether or not they could defeat these 10 mechanical beasts and escape was the most important thing. Everything else was just fleeting clouds. As for the grudges between the two of them, they could completely fight each other after they got out. It didn't matter how they fought. And most importantly, the aftermath of their battle had already caused the 10 mechanical beasts to show signs of recovery. The two of you should stop first. Suddenly, a clear voice sounded, and a divine light descended from the sky, directly blasting between the two people. The two people were immediately shocked and immediately scattered, looking at Xiahou Xiulan, who was not far away. Xiang Hao's expression became even more ferocious, and he roared, "Xiahou Xiulan, could it be that you want to stop me?" Xiahou Xiulan cursed in her heart. "If you can quickly finish off that brat, who would want to stop you? Did you not notice that the 10 mechanical beasts are about to recover? If you continue fighting like this, they will recover soon. Do you want us all to die?" Xiahou Xiulan was expressionless as she said coldly. At this time, Xiang Hao noticed the situation at the scene. Near the blood curtain, the 10 mechanical beasts were already showing signs of recovery. If they continued to fight like this, then perhaps they would really recover. But even so, he was stopped on the spot, and his complexion was abnormally ugly. If not for the fear of Xiahou Xiulan's extremely strong strength, perhaps he would have already taken action. And in fact, if not for the same level of experts as him, who would dare to intervene in this situation? He had the intention to continue fighting, but those 10 mechanical beasts made him somewhat afraid. So at this time, he could only glare at Yi Shiwen angrily, and finally stopped. Yi Shiwen just looked at Xiahou Xiulan, and simply did not care. If Xiang Hao wanted to fight here, he would also accompany him. Since everyone is here, then let's discuss how to break through the encirclement of these 10 mechanical beasts in order to pass through this blood curtain. At this time, Gongsun Juanhao opened his mouth and said, glancing at everyone. Everyone nodded. At this time, if there were only a few people at this time, they could indeed force their way through, But now that there were so many people, it was simply impossible for all of them to force their way through. If it was just Xiahou Shulan, Gongsun Juanhao, and Linli, they naturally had the confidence to break through, and even if it was just a few of them, they would not even care about these people at all, and directly leave by themselves. However, in addition to themselves, they also brought experts from their respective forces, as well as experts from their respective seas. These people could not be abandoned, so how to defeat these mechanical beasts became the current problem. Everyone was also very clear that if they did not get rid of these mechanical beasts, then they, who were only half a step into the law phase realm, would most likely be left behind, unable to get out. At this time, they could only work together. At this time, Gongsun Juanhao said, even if we attack together, it will be very difficult for us to deal with these 10 mechanical beasts of the law phase realm. The best way is to lure a few of them away, and then we will work together to deal with the rest first. Chapter 1104. Everyone nodded. This was indeed the best way, because these 10 mechanical beasts were obviously beyond the scope of everyone's ability. In other words, even if they managed to take them down, they would have to pay a huge price. At this time, this was undoubtedly the safest way to do it. But who would be the one to lure those mechanical beasts away? This was a very big problem, because everyone knew that the person who chose to lure the mechanical beasts was in an unimaginable danger. Since this guy is so powerful, just let him go. At this time, Xianghao looked at Yi Shiwen with a sneer. Everyone's eyes lit up. Indeed, wasn't Yi Shiwen the best candidate? His strength was enough, and he could even fight with Xianghao without falling into a disadvantageous position. Most importantly, he looked easy to bully, far easier to bully than Xianghao, who came from the Blue Moon Sea. Although he had a few companions, compared to Xianghao's mighty scale of dozens of people, there was no comparison at all. Get lost! In this regard, Yi Shiwen only coldly replied with this one word. How could Yi Shiwen agree to such a suggestion that was obviously ill-intentioned? If you want go by yourself. Xianghao's face suddenly fell, but Yi Shiwen didn't care. He didn't care about what Xianghao thought at all. The situation immediately became tense. At this time, the only ones who had the strength and ability to lure away those mechanical beasts were the few of them. As for the others, let alone luring away those mechanical beasts, they would be lucky if they didn't die on the spot. Their strength was obviously not enough to deal with these mechanical beasts of the law phase realm. Even the warriors who were also at the first level of the law phase realm couldn't do it. There was a huge difference in strength even at the same level. But obviously, no one was so stupid to choose to sacrifice themselves to lure the mechanical beasts away. The scene suddenly became deadlocked. Then we can only force our way through. We will each be responsible for one. Gongsun Juanhao said helplessly. The few of them thought about it. This might be the best way. Go! He shouted and took the lead to rush out. Everyone was slightly startled, but they also rushed over. The huge amount of aura swept over, causing these sleeping mechanical beasts to almost immediately react. Boom! Gongsun Junjia's attack was the first to arrive, directly hitting the body of a mechanical beast. The unguarded mechanical beast's body was blasted open, and a huge crack appeared on its body. If it was a human, they would have already been seriously injured or even killed. This was the most difficult part of these mechanical beasts to deal with. They were not afraid of death, and to them, injuries did not matter as long as it did not affect their internal functions. Boom! 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 At this time, other experts also made their moves. All kinds of martial arts attacks crossed the sky with colorful streamers and bombarded down. For a time, all kinds of explosion sounds swept wildly. Yi Shiwen also directly targeted a mechanical beast, and the flaming long blade in his hand directly chopped out, rising against the wind. Boom! The flaming long blade cut a huge crack on the body of the mechanical beast, but it was unknown what material this mechanical beast was made of. But the attack that was enough to split a law phase realm first-level expert in half on the spot could only cut a crack on the body of this mechanical beast. Although for others, this was already very amazing, except for Gongsun Juanhao and the others, Even if these mechanical beasts were defenseless, everyone else could only blast a small hole, not to mention a serious injury. After the first round, these mechanical beasts more or less had some injuries on their bodies, and these mechanical beasts that were still in a deep sleep also completely woke up. Roar! 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 Terrifying beast roars reverberated throughout the area, turning into sound waves that rippled outwards. Yi Shiwen directly targeted a mechanical beast and rushed forward. The awakened mechanical beast did not have the so-called adaptation period at all, and directly entered the state of fighting machines. On the spot, this fierce beast clawed at Yi Shiwen, and the huge sharp claws tore the sky, almost clawing Yi Shiwen to death on the spot. Yi Shiwen's toes touched the air, and his figure directly overflowed hundreds of meters away, narrowly avoiding this fatal claw attack. Roar! A ferocious, beastly roar resounded, and that mechanical beast opened its bloody mouth, sucking in countless blood chi in the surroundings in an instant. Then, a terrifying shockwave directly swept out of its mouth and went straight towards Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen spread out his hands, and the golden divinity instantly built a golden high wall in front of him. And then the terrifying shock wave blasted on the high wall. Yi Shiwen could feel a terrifying impact from his hands hitting his body. "Break for me!" Yi Shiwen shouted, and his hands directly tore out countless golden lights. After this shock wave lost its greatest impact, it was torn into nothingness by Yi Shiwen on the spot. Roar! A terrifying beast roar sounded, and after Yi Shiwen tore the shock wave apart, he found that this mechanical beast had already rushed in front of him, and the timing was just right, and there was almost no hesitation. Although this mechanical beast did not have the intelligence of an ordinary person, when it came to fighting instincts, it was already much more tyrannical than many people. The mechanical beast opened its bloody mouth and bit towards Yi Shiwen, and its sharp teeth gave people a feeling of having goosebumps. Big Bang Stardust Fist! Yi Shiwen shouted loudly, and vigorous real elemental energy overflowed in all directions. He condensed the power of countless stars in his hand and transformed it into a huge star. Then he bombarded it into his mouth. Bang! Yi Shiwen's fist directly smashed on a huge sharp tooth, and the terrifying fist strength directly broke this sharp tooth on the spot, and this mechanical beast was also sent flying by the huge force. In just one exchange, this mechanical beast was completely suppressed by Yi Shiwen. At this time, Yi Shiwen finally had the mind to pay attention to the battles on the other battlefields. Although Gongsun, Juanhao, and the others were fighting these mechanical beasts alone, in fact, they were not at a disadvantage and showed their tyrannical strength. In addition to them, Jian Wushuang, Yi Qianqian, and Gao Xian joined forces to hold back a mechanical beast, and it was simply a piece of cake for them. Even Yi Qianqian herself was able to fight against this mechanical beast without falling into a disadvantage. But in addition to these few teams, even if the number of warriors far exceeded these mechanical beasts, under the attack of these mechanical beasts, they were gradually defeated. At this time, in front of these mechanical beasts, the advantage of having more people seemed to be nothing at all. Seeing that Jian Wushuang, Yi Qianqian, and the others were able to block a mechanical beast, Yi Shiwen was finally relieved. Just now, he only paid attention to other places for a moment, but in fact his movements were not slow at all. In the instant that the mechanical beast was blasted away, he had already taken a big stride forward to chase it. The long flame saber in his hand was attached to a magic saber, and it burned even more fiercely. Shwa! His figure suddenly disappeared, and when he reappeared, he was already in front of that mechanical beast. The long saber in his hand directly cut through the vast sky, and all of a sudden, it stabbed into the chest of this mechanical beast. Although Yi Shiwen didn't know what kind of material this mechanical beast was made of, and it was very sturdy, but in front of Yi Shiwen's earth-level long blade, it was only able to block for a moment, and was directly stabbed in. Yi Shiwen also did not know where this mechanical beast's weak point was. After all, mechanical beasts were not like those fierce beasts, where the head, chest, and other vital points were all. Roar! This mechanical beast roared, and its huge front claw, almost without any pause, slammed down. fast, and urgent. Obviously, the chest was not this mechanical beast's weak point. Chua! Its front claw directly grabbed Yi Shiwen's body, and Yi Shiwen, who should have been directly clawed to death, turned into a ball of golden light and disappeared. When the surrounding people saw the situation on Yi Shiwen's side, they were dumbfounded on the spot, almost scared to death. This Yi Shiwen is too terrifying. That mechanical beast in front of him is simply like a toy. He can play with it as he pleases. Hiss. Other people can fight with mechanical beasts without falling into a disadvantageous position. It is already very terrifying. How can Yi Shiwen be so powerful? Is he really a human? He is simply an evildoer. Everyone sighed with emotion. And in comparison, they had so many people, but in the battle with mechanical beasts, they were retreating step by step. The two sides simply could not be mentioned in the same breath. At this time, Yi Shiwen's battle finally attracted the attention of Xiahou Shuolan and the others. And seeing Yi Shiwen so easily suppress the mechanical beasts, they were immediately somewhat astonished. What's so great about this, these mechanical beasts are nothing more than fast and powerful. They simply do not have any martial skills, and Yi Shiwen completely suppressed these mechanical beasts in these two aspects. That's why he seems to be so skillful and at ease. If he was replaced with a similar level of martial artist, how could he be so relaxed? Someone disdainfully pointed out the truth. Everyone was not stupid and almost immediately thought of these key points and immediately nodded their heads one after another. For everyone, mechanical beasts were a huge threat, but for Yi Shiwen, it was actually much easier than a similar level of martial artist. When he reappeared, he was already above this mechanical beast. Clang, the flaming long blade in Yi Shiwen's hand madly burned, and the next wave of attack, almost without any pause, blasted out. Puchi! Yi Shiwen's figure rapidly swept over, and the long blade directly stabbed into its head. Its head was obviously much sturdier than its chest. Yi Shiwen's long blade unexpectedly couldn't directly stab into its head for a while. It just paused for a moment, and the beast's claw reached out to grab it. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.